This page from Versus Books Volume 50 lists the staff credits for the publication. It names the writers, layout and design, production layout, gameplay support, maps and graphics, screenshot editor, and very special thanks personnel. Below this, it lists the company's staff, including the CEO, President, VP of Editorial and Associate Publisher, Managing Editor, Production Director, VP of Sales, Sales Assistant, CFO, Corporate Advisor, and Newsstand Consultant. The page also contains legal and trademark information for Sega and Xbox, and copyright details for Empire 21 Publishing. On the right side, there's an image showcasing several characters from Phantasy Star Online. At the bottom, there's print information, including the printed in USA notice, ISBN, contact details for Versus Books, and their address. This page is the contents page for the Phantasy Star Online Episode 1 and 2 Strategy Guide. It's divided into 5 main parts. Part 1, starting on page 2, covers characters and tactics, including character class breakdowns and general gameplay strategies. Part 2, beginning on page 26, is the Episode 1 walkthrough, detailing areas like forest, caves, mines, and ruins. Part 3, from page 80, is the Episode 2 walkthrough, covering areas such as VR Temple, VR Spaceship, Central Control Area, and Seabed. Part 4, on page 118, is about Hunter's Guild quests, listing all Hunter's Guild quests. Finally, Part 5, starting on page 154, is the Appendices section, which includes information on weapons, shields/barriers, armors/frames, units, mags, and techniques. This page is the start of the Characters and Tactics section, and as the title says, it's a guide to getting started in Phantasy Star Online. You can see a RACA Seal, which is a female android ranger class, so expect to learn about characters in this section. The page shows the flow of the game, which details the main quest progression through Episode 1 and Episode 2, outlining areas and bosses. It notes that black arrows in the flowchart mean progress is saved, while gray arrows are not. It also explains how to unlock harder difficulty modes, such as hard mode and very hard mode, including the level requirements to access them. This page details the 12 playable character classes in Phantasy Star Online, explaining that you choose from preset classes rather than individual attributes. These classes are grouped into hunters, rangers, and forces, each available across 4 races: humans, Numans, and androids. The page then introduces the 6 major stats in the game: defense power, DFP, which reduces damage taken; evasion power, EVP, to evade attacks; attack power, ATP, for weapon damage; attack accuracy, ATA, for hit frequency; mental strength, MST, for techniques; and hit points, HP, for health. Bar graphs for each stat visually compare the performance of different race and class combinations, like HUMAR, HUWHIRL, HUCAST, HUCA Seal, RAMAR, RACAST, FOMARL, and others. The page also gives short descriptions for each class type. Hunters excel in melee combat with short-range weapons, rangers are gun-wielding specialists for safe distance attacks, and forces are technique users who can support the party. In Phantasy Star Online, Section ID is a crucial game mechanic assigned during character creation, influencing item drops, mag evolution, and shop selections. Determined by character name, players can subtly alter their name for a different ID, though this isn't critical. In online play, the team leader's ID is most important, so players are encouraged to trade or join teams with various IDs. The guide details 10 section IDs: Viridia, Greenhill, Skyly, Bluefull, Purplenum, Pinkle, Redria, Oran, Yellowbows, and Whittill. Each ID affects item frequency, listing common and rare weapon types. For example, Viridia favors shot series, while Redria favors armor/shields. Oran favors daggers. These IDs are illustrated with character images and impact techer appraisals. The page includes screenshots showcasing the impact of section IDs, like how a RACAST could only get a bloody art dagger in the Oran section. This page is all about armor, shields, and units in Phantasy Star Online, and explains how they work. It details that armor and frames mainly boost your defense, while shields and barriers increase evasion. Both types of equipment offer resistances to elements like fire, ice, thunder, light, and dark. You can find slots in armor and shields to insert units, which are rare items used to further enhance your stats like accuracy, mind, and attack. The page then moves on to mags and photon blasts, explaining that mags are companions that evolve and boost your stats. Mag stats include DEF, POW, DEX, MIND, IQ, and Synchro. These stats determine what special abilities your mag will have and how powerful its photon blast will be. An example mag named Farcella Gola Pilla is shown with its photon blast called Poison Lily, which is an A-Beast attribute attack. The page also explains what each mag stat does, such as DF increasing your defense power, DFP, POW increasing your attack power, ATP, Dex for accuracy, ATA, and Mind for mental strength, MST. IQ and Synchro affect the mag's special abilities. The next page talks about using combos in battle in Phantasy Star Online, explaining how important they are to attack more often, increase your accuracy, and stop enemies from hitting you back. It breaks down the different attacks in a combo. Weak attacks do 90% damage at 100% accuracy, strong attacks deal 170% damage at 70% accuracy, and special attacks do 50% damage and accuracy but can trigger special elemental abilities. The page then talks about techniques, which are spells you learn from discs, and divides them into offensive, recovery, and support types. Offensive techniques are things like Foi Fire spells, Zond Lightning spells, and Barda Ice spells. Recovery techniques include Resta for healing, Anti for curing status problems, and Reverser for reviving players. Support techniques mentioned are Dayband to raise defense, and Shifta to boost attack. Techniques are found on discs and get stronger as you level them up. This page covers experience points, leveling up, status conditions, and recovery items in Phantasy Star Online. It explains that you level up by earning Express, and suggests a tactic called Express Poaching, where rangers with shotguns and slicers can quickly gain experience. The page also details various status conditions your character can encounter, like Poison, which drains HP, Frozen, which stops you in place, Paralysis, which prevents actions, Confusion, which messes with movement, and others like Slow-Mo, Short, Deband, Zalure, Shifta, and Jellin, which affect stats or abilities for a short time. Finally, it lists recovery items, such as Mono, Die, and Trimates for healing HP, Atomizers for TP, Antidote to cure poison, Antiparalysis to cure paralysis, Moon Atomizer to revive, Soul Atomizer to cure any status, Star Atomizer to heal you and nearby players, Telepipe for teleporting, and Trap Vision to see traps. This page focuses on Phantasy Star Online etiquette, recommending polite communication, fair item sharing, and effective class roles. Android should warn of traps, while Forces provide support. The guide also introduces Symbol Chat, a system using preset symbols and player-created faces for faster communication. The page then discusses Happy Holidays events, triggered by the console's clock, that change towns and online environments with themed decorations. Rag Rappies appear in costumes for various holidays, including Christmas, Valentine's Day, Halloween, and Easter. Finally, the page advises new players to play Episode 1 first, before tackling the more difficult Episode 2. This recommendation is emphasized as important for character progression and understanding the game's mechanics. This page introduces the HUMR class, which is a well-rounded hunter type for male characters in Phantasy Star Online. HUMARs are described as having a good mix of stats, capable of using most weapons and some techniques. They're not necessarily easy to play for beginners, as hunters need to be on the front lines, focusing on recovery techniques. The page details their weapon proficiencies, listing saber, sword, dagger, partisan, slicer, handgun, rifle, mechgun, shot, cane, rod, and wand. It highlights that HUMARs can mix and match various weapons effectively due to their balanced nature, although their lower accuracy can make handguns impractical early on. A tip for HUMAR players is to strengthen their MAG to utilize photon blasts effectively, as they take more damage and charge their MAGs more often. There are visual representations of typical HUMR stats in bar chart form, including attack, defense, mental, accuracy, evasion, hit points, and tech points. Starting stats are also provided as HP 40, TP 29, ATP 35, DFP 17, MST 29, ATA 68, EVP 45, and LCK10. The page mentions that light blue bars represent typical stats at level 25, and dark blue bars are stats at level 100. Two screenshots show HUMARs in gameplay, facing enemies like a pal shark and poison lily, demonstrating combat situations. The page concludes by calling HUMARs Jackofall trades, due to their weapon versatility. This page introduces the HUNWRL, who is the female Newman Hunter class in Phantasy Star Online. They are a very well-rounded character type, boasting a good mix of attack abilities and excellent mental stats, similar to Force characters. HUNWRLs excel in defense and evasion, making them quite resilient. The page mentions that while their attack stat is relatively low, they compensate with techniques, and their high mental ability allows them to learn powerful spells early on. Daggers are highlighted as the best weapon choice for this class, and sabers are also good. Swords and polearms are noted as less ideal. The page also details the typical HUNWRL stats in bar chart form for attack, defense, mental, accuracy, evasion, hit points, and tech points, explaining that light blue bars are for level 25 and dark blue for level 100. Starting stats are listed for HP, TP, ATP, DFP, MST, ATA, EVP, and LCK. Weapon proficiencies include saber, sword, dagger, partisan, slicer, handgun, mechgun, and slicer. Two screenshots on the page showcase HUNWRLs in action battling enemies. Overall, HUNWRLs are presented as versatile characters who utilize techniques and evasion to overcome their lower attack power, making them a solid choice for players who enjoy a mix of combat styles. This page introduces the HU cast, who is described as the Hunter Android male class in Phantasy Star Online and boasts the best attack stat in the game. They also have respectable defense, accuracy, and evasion. HU casts are said to be simple to play due to lacking techniques, making them a hack and heal class. They excel early in the game, but other classes can catch up later on. Weapon choices for HU casts are straightforward because of their high attack and accuracy, having access to hunter weapons, including handguns, swords, and polearms. They are proficient with Ranger Series handguns. The page notes that while HU casts have lots of HP, their defensive capabilities are lacking, and experimentation with handguns is recommended at higher levels. There are two screenshots shown, one featuring a HU cast fighting a dubchick, and another battling a poison lily. The page includes typical HU cast stats in bar chart format for attack, defense, mental, NAA, accuracy, evasion, hit points, and tech points, NAA, explaining that light blue bars are for level 25 and dark blue for level 100 to represent character strengths and weaknesses. Starting stats are also listed: HP 44, TP 0, ATP 35, DFP 18, MST 0, ATA 65, EVP 35, and LCK 10. Weapon proficiencies for HU casts include saber, sword, dagger, partisan, slicer, handgun, rifle, mechgun, shot, cane, rod, and wand. It's mentioned that HU casts may not be versatile, but they are powerful. This page showcases the HUCA seal, the female hunter android class in Phantasy Star Online, highlighting that they are focused on attack, accuracy, and evasion. It mentions they are a good choice for close to medium range combat, and while they lack techniques, they compensate with the ability to use traps. These traps increase in number as they level up and can be replenished at the hospital or with a healing rig. Weapon-wise, mechguns are recommended due to the HU seal's naturally high accuracy. Even basic mechguns are effective against groups of enemies. It's suggested that at higher levels, especially 85+, using accuracy units on armor is beneficial for solo play in ultimate mode. Handguns are also recommended as a backup weapon for enemies outside of mechgun range. The page displays two screenshots, one featuring a HUCA seal fighting a Zol Gibbon and another battling a Marilia. There's a typical HUCA seal stats section showing bar graphs for attack, defense, mental, NA, accuracy, evasion, and hit points. Starting stats are listed as HP 44, TP 0, ATP 35, DFP 18, MST 0, ATA 72, EVP 35, and LCK 10. Weapon proficiencies include saber, sword, dagger, partisan, slicer, handgun, rifle, mechgun, shot, cane, rod, and wand. It's noted that the blue bars in the stats represent typical stats at level 25 and dark blue at level 100, showing strengths and weaknesses across character development. This page is all about the RAMAR, a hunter class that is human and male. It mentions that while RAMARs have the lowest MST and TP stats in the game, they can still use techniques. Their attack and defense stats are the lowest of all the ranger classes, but their accuracy is very high. Because of this high accuracy, handguns and rifles are recommended, and even mech guns can be effective due to their accuracy. The page points out that shot weapons are good because they can hit every enemy in a room, which helps earn a lot of experience, though it might annoy your party members. You can see typical RAMAR stats in bar graph form, along with their starting stats and weapon proficiencies, showcasing their strengths in accuracy and weapon skills like saber, handgun, rifle, and shot weapons. There are also gameplay screenshots showing the RAMAR in action, emphasizing their ability to pick off enemies from a safe distance thanks to their accuracy. The next page introduces the RAMARL, who is the female ranger human class, similar to the RAMAR. Stat-wise, RAMARL starts with the same MST and TP, but she will eventually exceed the male RAMAR in these stats. Her defense also increases significantly, surpassing even the RA cast at level 6. However, her attack power is lower, and her accuracy is the worst of all rangers. Rifles are recommended early on to compensate for her accuracy, and later, mech guns can be used when her accuracy improves. While her technique range is limited, she has healing techniques to help recover from damage. The page shows typical RAMARL stats in bar graph form, including attack, defense, mental, accuracy, evasion, hit points, and tech points. Starting stats and weapon proficiencies are listed, showing she is proficient with sabers, swords, daggers, partisans, slicers, handguns, rifles, mech guns, shot weapons, canes, rods, and wands. 2 gameplay screenshots are also on the page. The light blue bars in the graphs represent typical stats at level 25, and the dark blue bars are stats at level 100. This page introduces the RA cast, who is the male ranger android class. RA casts are known as the most powerful rangers because of their high attack stat. Although their accuracy is not great early on, they are encouraged to evade enemies and attack from a distance, using rifles and handguns for maximum damage. Mech guns are not recommended for RA casts. The page displays typical RA cast stats in bar graph form, including attack, defense, mental, accuracy, evasion, hit points, and tech points, showing level 25 and level 100 values. Starting stats and weapon proficiencies are also listed. Weapon proficiencies include sabers, swords, daggers, partisans, slicers, handguns, rifles, mech guns, shot weapons, canes, rods, and wands. There is also a gameplay screenshot on the page. This page introduces the RACA seal, the female ranger android class, known for high accuracy, which is a significant advantage early in the game for rangers. While rangers in general may struggle with accuracy at the start, RACA seals excel and can effectively use rifles and handguns from a distance. Enemies also have lower evasion early on, making RACA seals quite powerful in the initial levels. Although RA casts are stronger later on, RACA seals are better in the first 30 to 40 levels. They also have good defense. Their weapon recommendations are handguns and rifles early, and mech guns become viable later due to their high accuracy. They are considered well-rounded rangers and good for beginners. The page shows typical RACA seal stats with bar graphs for attack, defense, mental, accuracy, evasion, hit points, and tech points, showing levels 25 and 100. Starting stats at level 1 are listed as HP 31, MST 0, TP 0, ATA 78, ATP 20, EVP 31, DFP 23, and LCK 10. Weapon proficiencies include saber, sword, dagger, partisan, slicer, handgun, rifle, mechgun, shot. The page also includes a gameplay screenshot showcasing a RACA seal in action. The light blue bars in the stats represent level 25 values, and the dark blue bars represent level 100 values. This page is about the FOMAR, the male human force class. FOMAR characters boast the highest attack power among force classes, although at higher levels this difference lessens compared to rangers. They have the lowest MST and TP in the class, making them a more challenging force to play. Despite this, they're a good choice for experienced PSO players wanting a different force experience, as they don't need to rely solely on techniques for damage unlike other forces. The page shows typical FOMAR stats, with bar graphs for attack, defense, mental, accuracy, evasion, hit points, and tech points at levels 25 and 100. The starting stats at level 1 are HP 29, MST 53, TP 79, ATA 64, ATP 13, EVP 35, DFP 10, and LCK 10. Their weapon proficiencies include sabers, swords, daggers, partisans, slicers, handguns, rifles, mechguns, shots, canes, rods, and wands. Technique specialities include 30% power boost to Gifoy, Gibarda, Gizonde, and Grants, and range X2 for Deband and Shifta. There are also gameplay screenshots showing the FOMAR in action against enemies like a Buma and a Daimanian. The next page introduces the FOMAR-L, who is described as one of two force characters that aren't bad in battle, noting her attack and accuracy are better than FON-HEMs and FON-Whirls, but not as good as hunters or rangers. The text suggests FOMAR-Ls are good for technique-focused play or with strong party support, while superior mental capabilities are better for other forces. There's a section on WE Epons, which highlights that FOMAR-Ls have high enough accuracy to use specialty handguns effectively. Combining handguns with TP draining abilities like Heart, Mind, Soul, or Geist is recommended for renewable TP. DIM series weapons are also mentioned as useful for their one-hit kill abilities. The page also shows typical FOMAR-L stats in bar graphs for attack, defense, mental, accuracy, evasion, hit points, and tech points, represented by blue bars. Below this is a starting stats table listing. HP 29, MST 53, TP 79, ATA 64, ATP 13, EVP 35, DFP 10, and LCK 10. Weapon proficiencies are listed as saber, sword, dagger, partisan, slicer, handgun, rifle, mechgun, shot, cane, rod, and wand. Technique specialities are power plus 50% for Grants and range X2 for Deband, Shifta, Resta, and Anti. 3 gameplay screenshots are included, showing a FOMAR-L fighting against enemies like a Garand's, a Pan-Arms, and a laser-shooting enemy. This page introduces the FONAWHIRL, the Force Newman female class, noting they are the second best technique users in the game, just below the FONAMWEL. While their mental stats are slightly lower than FONEMs, they compensate with superior evasion and defense. The page clarifies that the light blue bars in the stats represent typical level 25 stats, while the dark blue bars indicate stats at level 100. The typical FONAWHIRL stats section uses bar graphs to visualize attack, defense, mental, accuracy, evasion, hit points, and tech points. Below, the starting stats are listed. HP 27, TP 87, ATP 10, DFP 13, MST 58, ATA 61, EVP 53, and LCK 10. Weapon proficiencies for FONAWHIRLs include saber, sword, dagger, partisan, slicer, handgun, rifle, mechgun, shot, cane, rod, and wand. Technique specialities for FONAWHIRLs give a 30% power boost to Fwa, Barda, and Zonde, and double range for Resta, Anti, and Magid techniques. The page also gives weapon advice, stating early game. Force weapons are mostly for breaking boxes and hitting rappies, suggesting wands are best unless you find a staff or handgun with a good special ability due to accuracy problems with guns and slicers. The page shows screenshots of a FONAWHIRL using techniques in battle. This page is about designing your character in Phantasy Star Online, detailing the customization options available after choosing your character class. You get to name your character and choose a face and costume. The page highlights that non-Android characters have a wide range of appearance options. For humans, Humar, you can customize their face, hair, skin color, and costume with various options displayed. Human females, Hunewearl, also have face, hair, skin, and costume customization. Androids, Hucast, have different customization categories, head and body parts, each with multiple visual choices. The page also describes the dressing room feature, which costs 10,000 meseta and allows you to change your character's body and hair colors at any time after starting the game. It's important to note that the 10,000 meseta is needed in your inventory, not just in the bank. Finally, it mentions character proportions as another customizable attribute, allowing you to adjust your character's overall build to be short, stocky, tall, lanky, or anything in between. This page continues showing character customization options in Phantasy Star Online. It highlights the HUCASEAL, RAMR, and RAMARL character classes. For HUCASEAL, you can customize the head and body parts, with various visual options shown. For RAMR, customization options include face, skin, hair, and costume, with a range of choices displayed visually. Similarly, for RAMARL, you can customize the face, skin, hair, and costume, and many visual examples are provided. There's a note about hair color, explaining that you can control it with an RGB slider in the hair menu, allowing for almost any hair color imaginable. Finally, there's a section called Classic Teams Number 1 that talks about recreating classic Phantasy Star teams, specifically mentioning Rolf, Rudo, and Needy. It mentions that while Rudo might be a bit rough to recreate, you can make a Needy that looks very similar to the original. The hardest part for Neely is finding a photon claw weapon for her to use. This page continues the Designing Your Character section, showcasing more character customization options. It moves on to the RA Cast class, displaying head and body part options visually. Next, it covers the RACA Seal class, also showing head and body customization choices. Then, for the FOMAR class, it details customization options for face, skin, hair, and costume with image examples. There is also a section called Classic Teams Number 2, which suggests creating a Fei Yen character, noting it's easy to make a RACA Seal that resembles her. It recommends using machine guns and sabers and pairing her with bulky RA casts and HU casts to form a solid team, including a Belgdor and Temjin. This page marks the beginning of the Episode 1 walkthrough section, promising comprehensive data on items, enemies, and maps. The page features artwork showcasing various characters ready for adventure, setting the stage for the walkthrough content to follow. This page explains how to use the information presented in this strategy guide section. It details the different data categories provided for each area, including item data, enemy data, and map data. The item data section lists items categorized as tools, techniques, arms, and guards, color-coded for rarity, with white being common and green being rarer. It also mentions that item data may slightly vary based on section IDs and lists armor and shield unit rarity. The arms section then presents a list of weapon types like brand, sword, dagger, partisan, slicer, stick, rod, wand, autogun, rifle, mechgun, and shot. The enemy data section shows how enemy information is structured, using the RAGRAPI as an example. It includes enemy resistances and hit points across different difficulty modes: offline, online, normal, hard, very hard, and ultimate. It notes that resistance data is based on normal mode and suggests using fire and ice attacks are generally effective. The 6 resistances are clarified, listing EFR Fire Foy, EIC Ice Barda, ETH Thunder Zond, ELT Light Grants, EDK Dark Megid, and ESP weapon abilities like Dim, Panic, Hold, etc. Finally, the map data section explains that maps are randomly generated and describes how to read the map layouts, including door types, terminals, laser barriers, and chest colors, where gray chests have random contents and brown chests contain fixed items. This page details the item data for the Forest 1 area in Episode 1, covering normal, hard, very hard, and ultimate modes. For each mode, it lists available techniques, arms, and guards. In normal mode, techniques include foi, barda, and zond, while arms include saber, sword and dagger, and guards include frame and armor. Hard mode techniques are similar, but include resta, anti, and reverser, and arms and guards are also listed. Very hard mode expands on this further, listing more powerful techniques, arms like gladius and claymore, and guards such as brave armor and hyperframe. Finally, ultimate mode item data is presented with even stronger techniques, arms like gladius and claymore again, and high-end guards such as brave armor and hyperframe. The page also indicates the average armor level of units in this area with a star rating system. The next page showcases enemy data for Episode 1, detailing various enemy types you'll encounter. It covers Boomas, noting they come in Originals, Go, and Jigo flavors, with a preference for Zonde and partial resistance to Barda. Ragrappies are described as cute but rewarding to defeat for items and express, suggesting a quick shot before they notice you. There's info on wolves, specifically savage wolves and barbarous wolves, highlighting that barbarous wolves are leaders who buff themselves and savage wolves, so taking them out first is strategic. Monists are noted as being numerous but not very rewarding, with moderate HP in normal mode, but can be annoying in harder modes, especially due to Mothmans. For each enemy type, there are stat blocks showing their resistances: EFR, EIC, ETH, ELC, EDK especially, and HP/XP values across normal, hard, very hard, and ultimate difficulties in both offline and online modes. This page is all about map data for Forest 1, and it details 3 different offline map variations you might encounter. Variation A is described as the easiest route, being very linear with fewer enemies. The downside is, the rewards are not great, with only a brown chest containing a telepipe. The trickiest part is a room in the northeast that has a pack of wolves, which could be tough for forces without Zond. Variation B is loaded with Boomas. You'll find them in almost every room, but usually only 2 or 3 at once. The strategy suggests forces and hunters can use hit-and-run tactics with foi, while rangers can handle the dogmen Boomas from doorways. The quest route is pretty direct southeast, and the chest is better this time, containing a telepipe and a moon atomizer, making it worthwhile. Variation C has an unusual layout, where you start in the middle, overlooking the transporter to Forest 2. The advice is to take a southeast detour first to grab a weapon or armor piece from a chest, then head west from the starting point and circle north to reach the Forest 2 transporter after clearing just 2 rooms. The strategy guide details Forest 2 in Phantasy Star Online. Key points include the broken bridge, repaired with a variable location switch, dummy chests, which are enemy mimics, the boss warp, a transporter activated after the boss fight, and mini-warps at the end of quests leading to the central dome. Telepipe tricks advise using telepipes to return to town for healing and restocking before the boss fight, or for quick returns if the fight is lost. The enemy data focuses on the new grass assassin Hildebeer, highlighting its powerful attacks and offering strategies for defeating it based on class. Rangers and forces should use ranged attacks, while hunters can act as decoys. A stat table for Hildebeers across difficulties is also provided. This page focuses on the boss data for the dragon in Episode 1. It describes the dragon boss as not being overly tough, but possessing a variety of attacks that players need to watch out for, like flaming breath and shockwaves. The page provides the dragon's elemental resistances and its HP stats for normal, hard, very hard, and ultimate difficulties in both offline and online modes. Screenshots illustrate different moments during the dragon fight. It then details class-specific strategies against the dragon. Hunters are advised to use draw weapons and can attack any part of the dragon. Rangers should aim for the head with ranged attacks and use rifles and draw weapons, and forces should exploit the dragon's ice weakness using spells like Barda and Jabarda, or utilize sabers and Zonda spells. The dragon's attribute is noted as native. This page shows the map data for Forest 2 in Phantasy Star Online, Episode 1 and 2, detailing the 3 offline variations of the map. Variation A describes a map where you can go in pretty much any direction from the main chamber to get to the central dome, suggesting heading north and looping to the southwest room, which has tough Hildebeer enemies. It notes that chests in the southeast area contain weapon, armor, and a valuable star atomizer, and you'll need to go back after hitting the red terminal atop the ledge. Variation B is described as forcing you to travel through almost every room, but with less tough enemies. It suggests avoiding battles and skipping the 5 chests, and warns that the central dome has a monist enemy that attacks quickly. Variation C indicates the warp is in the usual place for this map, recommending heading east from the starting point and skipping rooms in the west if you want. It highlights a big battle at the top of the central dome, featuring a monist, a variety of boomas, and rappies. It suggests battling through the west wing if you want to charge your photon blast and gain experience before taking Warp A. This page details the item data for the Cave 1 area across normal, hard, very hard, and ultimate modes in Phantasy Star Online Episode 1. The data is broken down into categories including tools, techniques, arms, and guards. Each difficulty level presents different item drops within these categories, with techniques in hard, very hard, and ultimate modes showing level ranges. There's also an average level of armor units rating indicated for each area to give players an idea of the enemy's strength. To access the caves in Phantasy Star Online Episode 1, speak to the principal after defeating the dragon. Cave 1 features foot switches, which must be pressed simultaneously in online mode. Players should be aware of bomb traps, which can be destroyed or bypassed, and smashers, large piston traps that are easily avoided. Dark rooms require activation of a glowing switch to illuminate. Healing rigs provide HP and TP regeneration. Finally, be wary of poison lily enemies. Their venom can poison or paralyze, requiring antidotes or the anti-technique to cure. This strategy guide excerpt focuses on enemies in the caves area of Episode 1. Sharks, including variations like Evil and Pal Sharks, are similar to Boomas but with extended attack ranges. Fire techniques work well on individual Evil and Pal Sharks, but the Barda technique is best for gill shark groups. Pal Sharks are especially dangerous in very hard mode. Poison lilies inflict poison and paralysis. Humans and Numans are most affected, while androids are immune. Forces should use foi and maintain distance. Hunters have an easier time with them. Destroying the lilies quickly is recommended. Grass assassins are slow and easy to defeat when not charging, but their paralysis beam is a threat. Teammates should assist paralyzed players. During charging, they are immune to attacks. Nanodragons are the most dangerous cave enemies, using ice beams and heat-seeking pulses. Zonde is effective for forces. Rangers can use similar tactics from behind. Hunters without Zonde should engage in close combat, attacking before the nanodragons fly away. The guide also includes enemy resistance data and HP/XP ranges for different difficulty levels. The next page is titled Area Strategy and Map Data for the Caves area. The strategy section advises players to use long-range weapons like handguns and foi, especially in cavernous areas. A good tactic is to eliminate nanodragons and poison lilies first, then form a firing squad. For lava rooms, the strategy is to lure all enemies to the center of the map, then use heat vents for safety while picking them off with rifles or handguns. The screenshots show gameplay with evil sharks and provide enemy attribute information. The map data focuses on Variation A of Cave 1, stating it's the longest variation and worth the trouble because of a room in the southeast containing 10 gray chests. This chest room is protected by a blue barrier and floor switches, allowing you to get the chests without fighting. East of this area, expect heavy resistance in the lava room. The guide suggests taking Warp A and detouring to the southeast to hit floor switches in a split room before heading north. At the northeast, there is a heavily guarded healing rig. This page details the map data for Cave 1, showcasing Variation B and Variation C. Variation B map data suggests avoiding this route unless you really need antidotes, because it involves a detour with traps. However, if you do take this path, you can deactivate the blue barriers after getting chests to continue onwards. Variation C is described as unique because it is the only variation of Cave 1 where Pan-Arms enemies appear. The guide recommends checking page 48 for strategy tips on dealing with these rare enemies. This variation includes lava rooms with heat vents. To progress, you need to take Warp A to reach a second floor switch. After hitting the switch, you can use Warp B to get back on track. The screenshot shows a player battling a Platyhind, a Pan-Arms enemy. The next page details the item data for Cave 2, breaking down items available across 4 difficulty modes: normal, hard, very hard, and ultimate. In each difficulty mode, there are categories for tools, techniques, arms, and guards. For example, in normal mode, tools include items like monomate and dimates, while techniques list spells such as foi and barda. Arms include swords and daggers, and guards feature frames and armors. The page is structured similarly for hard, very hard, and ultimate modes, showcasing the techniques, arms, and guards you can expect to find in Cave 2 at each difficulty level. There's also a screenshot showing a grass assassin enemy, which is identified as an attribute, a beast type enemy. This page, titled Episode 1 Strategy Data, covers new trap variations and enemy data, specifically focusing on Pofuli slime. In the trap section, it details 3 new trap types in Cave 2: double traps, ice traps, and healing traps. Double traps are essentially 2 bomb traps in one, with a larger blast radius. Ice traps freeze characters, and healing traps surprisingly restore HP instead of causing damage, though they are rare. The page also explains decoy floor switches in Cave 2, which are indistinguishable but have bomb traps above them. The strategy for traps is to either carefully disarm them with a handgun, or to run through them if you are confident and quick. The enemy data section focuses on the Pofuli slime, also known as Poofy slime. It describes this blue slime as annoying because it takes a while to defeat and can split into 2. It's weak to ice techniques like Barda and Frost. The page highlights that you need to be careful when attacking, as hitting it incorrectly after it stands still may cause it to split. Stats for the Pofuli slime are provided across normal, hard, very hard, and ultimate difficulty levels, including HP, resistances, EIC, ETH, ELC, EDK especially, and experience points. The page also mentions that red Puyi slimes are rare enemies, and refers to page 159 for more details. Screenshots on the page illustrate examples of ice traps, healing traps, double traps, decoy switches, and gameplay images featuring Pofuli slimes. The map data section of the guide for Cave 2 details the map layout, including 4 trap types, and suggests using trap visions. It advises bringing a gun to destroy boxes, skipping the first detour, but exploring the second. Point 1. A blue barrier can be deactivated by a floor switch in the northwest corner, found by searching grass and bushes. An online mode, split at point 2, with one player on a switch while the other advances. The guide also recommends exploring the extraneous passageways from the monolith chamber. The fun stuff section offers combat strategies, like using enemy projectiles to damage other enemies. For Pofuli slimes, let their attacks hit other monsters. Nano dragons will attack anything in the room, so use them to damage gill sharks. The guide includes screenshots of gameplay and the map of Cave 2, highlighting points 1 and 2. This page continues the map data, now showing variations B and C for Episode 1. Variation B's map detours are described as mostly a waste of time for treasure, but offer good opportunities for rangers to snipe enemies and split rooms. Other classes are advised to take the direct route due north, then east, then straight south, avoiding the detours. This area has rooms with both enemies and floor switches, requiring players to defeat all enemies to open switch-locked doors. Variation C map is presented as having fewer traps and a more linear layout compared to Cave 2 variations. It still includes side divergences like Warp A, which is suggested for players low on cash, as it offers about 20 extra items. However, the guide advises against taking the Warp B trip, warning about traps but noting a monolith is present there. The page also includes map diagrams for both variations, and a screenshot showing gameplay combat against an evil shark, which is classified as an attribute, a beast enemy. The next page details the item data for Cave 3 in Episode 1. It lists items obtainable in normal, hard, very hard, and ultimate modes. Each mode is further broken down into item categories: tools, techniques, arms, and guards. For normal mode, you can find basic tools like Monomate and Antidote, techniques like Foi and Barda at lower levels, and basic arms and guards, such as branded armor. Hard mode sees upgraded techniques like Foi, Barda, and Zonde at higher levels, alongside stronger versions of techniques like Jifoi and Rabarda. It also lists more advanced arms like Gladius and guards, such as Brave Armor. Very hard mode offers even higher level techniques and introduces stronger arms like Ripper and Gungnir, alongside powerful guards like King's Frame. Ultimate mode provides the most potent techniques, reaching levels up to 29 for Foi and 30 for Resta. The arms and guards listed here are top tier, including Dragon Frame and Imperial Barrier. Each mode section also notes the average armor unit level you can expect to find in this area, indicated by stars at the bottom of each section. The page helps players understand the item progression and difficulty scaling in Cave 3 across different game modes. This page is all about the enemy data for Episode 1, focusing on panarms, hidum, and mechanigium. It explains that panarms are tough due to their high defense, but are weak to special weapons like Drain, Heart, or Master Series weapons, and techniques like Shock and Heat. Regular attacks are ineffective until they split. Hidum and Michagium are vulnerable to normal attacks, with Michagium's sword doing minimal damage, so focus on Hidum. Special abilities are effective against them. The page also has a fun corner section, noting that panarms are familiar to Phantasy Star fans, connecting them to Tween Arms from Phantasy Star 3 and Grass Assassin from Phantasy Star 2 and 4, even mentioning their Chaosbringer appearance in PS1. It points out the return of Rappies in PS4, including Blue and King Rappies, continuing their habit of running away when losing. Screenshots are shown of Thin Arms, Hawk, Bladerite from PS3 era, Rappy, Locusta, King Rappy, Horseman, Centaur from PS4 era, and Gentar from PS1 era. This guide details strategies for defeating de role. Frequent damage opportunities arise by exploiting the boss's attacks. Spike shots, purple balls, dodge or run, flopping onto the raft exposing the weak spot behind the skull mask, attack here, tentacle attacks, dodge, and laser beams, run from side to side. Hunter strategies involve using swords/partisans, aiming for the back of the neck, and dodging the tentacle. Rangers can attack during laser phases, but should prioritize aiming for the weak spot. Forces excel in hard/very hard modes, using Rafoi during the raft phase, and offering support spells like Gifoi and Zond in all modes, along with Shifta. The guide also provides de role's resistances and HP values for various difficulties, as well as XP rewards. Screenshots show gameplay with different classes and character names. This page is the area strategy for Episode 1's Cave 3 in Phantasy Star Online. It describes Cave 3 as a maze-like area filled with long detours, dead ends, and various traps, noting the return of Smasher enemies and the presence of bizarre traps. The guide advises caution in hallways with 3 enemies, as one might be faster. It also warns about 4 switch doors requiring multiple players in online mode, and suggests checking door patterns. The Variation A section provides a walkthrough for navigating Cave 3, describing it as easily getting lost due to warps and Y-shaped rooms. It offers the easiest direct route by going east, taking the northwest fork in a big square room, and the northwest fork again in the first Y-shaped room. It points out a dark room requiring all enemies to be defeated to open the next door, and mentions high-level enemies like myriad traps, panarms, and bazaars. It reminds players about warps that lead back near the beginning. The page also features a map of Cave 3 Variation A. There are also screenshots showing gameplay with character interfaces and item lists, including items like Trap Vision. This page details the item data for the Mine 1 area in Phantasy Star Online, and it lists items across 4 difficulty modes: Normal, Hard, Very Hard, and Ultimate modes. For each mode, it categorizes items into tools, techniques, arms, and guards, suggesting recommended equipment for each. A screenshot on the page shows the enemy Gilchick and identifies its attribute as Machine Type. The Mines area introduces new traps: Confusion, Inverted Controls, Slow Motion, Reduced Speed, and Short, Machine Paralysis. Yellow traps are constantly set. Decoy terminals, resembling normal terminals, are traps. Approach multiple same-colored terminals cautiously and use Trap Vision. Darker rooms may contain hidden switches. Class-specific strategies. Hunters use melee weapons for crowd control, while HU Mars/HU Eworls use Zonde on flyers. HU casts might use guns when solo. Rangers excel with rifles, using hit-and-cover tactics. Forces should use ranged attacks: Razond for hit and run, Zond/Gizond if available, and Foi/Rafoi for certain enemies. Zond is particularly effective against machine-type enemies. This page details enemy data for the Mines area in Episode 1, focusing on Gilchicks, Canidines, Cananes, and Cynobeats. Data tables provide resistance information: EFR, EIC, ETH, ELC, EDK especially, and HP/XP values across difficulty levels for offline and online modes. Gilchicks are best handled with ranged weapons to avoid their double punches and fire attacks. Canidines, often found in rings led by Canes, should be attacked by destroying the ring before the Canine dies, as they become aggressive upon the leader's death. Cynobeats are the most dangerous, with rapid punches that cause confusion. Long-range attacks are ineffective, Zond and Foi are recommended. Sino Beats can use shadow attacks, and Sino Golds heal with Resta. This page shows map data for the mines area, presenting two variations, A and B. Variation A describes how detours are not very rewarding in this instance. It advises players to go straight west from the starting teleport until reaching a three-way room after a dark room. Enemies will keep appearing once the door is opened in that room. The text mentions a room heading west with 3 Sinos, and suggests that Warp B is the only detour worth considering, if you're okay with backtracking. The map layout for Variation A is shown. Variation B highlights that this area is worth exploring for good items. It points out 4 brown chests protected by double barriers in the center west of the map. Hot weapons and armor are mentioned as excellent rewards. The room directly west contains a brown chest in each corner. But be warned, 2 of these chests are decoys that contain a trio of guild chicks each. The map layout for Variation B is also displayed. The next page continues the map data for the mines area, now covering Variation C and Variation D. Variation C suggests that detours in this mine are worthwhile, especially in the smaller rooms filled with enemies. It specifically mentions the central room, which contains centurions, sinos, and guild chicks. The guide recommends using a gun to snipe at enemies from the doorway. Variation D describes this version of Mine 1 as having numerous terminals, floor switches, and traps. Traps and fake terminals are abundant, so trap visions are recommended. While backtracking to warps and treasure rooms is possible, it's noted that there isn't much loot, so players might consider taking simpler detours and blazing through the area. The next page continues the mines map data with Variation E, which has very few enemies, usually just 1 wave per room. The central room connects the north and south wings, which are narrow passages patrolled by Sinos and other enemy waves. It suggests hitting all the floor switches around the divided room to access a treasure room west of the Mine 2 warp, where you can find a star atomizer and armor. Variation F focuses on treasure hunting, requiring you to get the 5 brown chests south of the divided room, which involves some backtracking. There's treasure in the middle of the divided room, and this whole variation is essentially a treasure quest. Nearly every room has chests full of items. In the long room connecting the east and west wings, about half of the 12 chests are decoys that contain enemies. You only need to open and defeat 1 box full of guild chicks to unlock the door. This page presents item data for Mine 2 across different difficulty modes: normal, hard, very hard, and ultimate. For each difficulty, it lists recommended tools, techniques, arms, and guards. In normal mode, you'll find basic tools like Monomate, Difluid, and Antidote, along with techniques like Foi, Barta, Zonde, and Resta. Arm options include Buster, Gigash, Knife, and Partisan, while guards are Gigaframe and Soulframe. Guard mode introduces higher-level techniques and weapons, with techniques ranging from Foi L910 to Ryuker and Anti-L24. Arm options include Gladius, Claymore, Edge, and Birdies. Guard options are Grand Armor, Shock Frame, and King's Frame. Very hard mode continues with stronger items. Techniques range from Foi L914 to Ryuker and Anti-L36. Arm options include DB's Saber, Caliber, Blade Dance, and Gungnir. Guard options are Absorb Armor, Protect Frame, and General Armor. Ultimate mode lists the most powerful items. Techniques. Techniques span from Foi L1929 to Ryuker and Anti-L47. Arm options include DB's Saber, Caliber, Blade Dance, and Gungnir. Guard options include Absorb Armor, Protect Frame, General Armor, and Perfect Frame. The page also indicates the average armor level recommended for this area is 3 stars in normal, 4 stars in hard, 5 stars in very hard, and 6 stars in ultimate. A screenshot shows gameplay with a Dubchick enemy, classified as a machine attribute. This page provides enemy and boss data for Dubchicks, Dubwitches, Garans, and Volume Op. Dubchicks are tough machine-type enemies that reform unless the controlling Dubwitch is destroyed. They resist fire and ice. Dubwitches hide in the ceiling, control Dubchicks, and resist dark damage. Garans, also machine-type, are known for their heat-seeking missiles. Rangers can attack from a distance, and techniques can destroy the missiles. The Volume Opt boss fight involves monitors, electric totems, and an amplifier. Destroying the amplifier at the start of each cycle keeps the totems exposed longer. The red totem's first attack is unavoidable. Damaging the monitors is an effective way to damage the boss. HP and experience points for all enemies, and the boss vary based on difficulty and play mode. The next page continues the boss data for Volume Opt in Episode 1, outlining strategies for different character classes: Hunters, Rangers, and Forces. Hunters should focus on quickly destroying monitors and electric totems, using dagger weapons. Rangers should target the amplifier and monitors from a distance. Forces should use Fue for monitors, emphasizing manual targeting, and TP conservation for Resta and Shifta. The page details the strategy for Volume Opt's second form, recommending dodging and using the strongest weapon or technique. Foi, Jizond, and Razond are suggested techniques. It explains to dodge the tentacle attacks similar to de Roulet, and to run around the loop to avoid attacks, except when it's healing. The pillar attack is telegraphed by red tracking beams, requiring players to run to avoid damage. Missiles Volume Opt fires will only hit the person targeted, allowing others to keep attacking. Volume Opt's final attack is a paralyzing energy orb, easily dodged, and party members should attack the stone it encases to prevent lasers. Two tables show Volume Opt's resistances and HP/XP values for normal, hard, very hard, and ultimate difficulties in both offline and online modes for Volume Opt 1 and Volume Opt 2. Volume Opt 1 has resistances of EFR 30, EIC 30, ETH 15, ELC 30, EDK 100, 100 Spanish pesetas. Volume Opt 2 has resistances of EFR 50, EIC 35, ETH 15, ELC 30, EDK 100, 100 Spanish pesetas. XP is higher for Volume Opt 2. The next page presents map data for Episode 1, continuing from previous pages. It details two variations of map layouts or enemy encounters. Variation C notes that every detour in this map is guarded by enemies, suggesting players can skip these if not seeking express. The S-shaped room contains traps and a pair of Sinnohs. It advises players to snipe enemies from the center strip or hide nearby. In a dark room, Garans may be waiting. It mentions a light switch, and if players haven't used it, they should hug the door and try to use a gun or Zond to activate it. Variation D describes a version where Sinnohs and Garans are less frequent, implying a Mine 2 setting. Sinnohs appear in roughly half the rooms, often two or more at a time, emphasizing sniping as the safe way to deal with them. Garanzis are described as more stationary, and players might need to run up and hit them before dodging missiles. Sinnohs and Garanzis are paired in the first long room and again in the two rooms just west of the Mine 1 warp. It recommends bringing a strong weapon and recovery items for this map variation. This page continues the map data for Episode 1 and details two more map variations, E and F. Variation E is described as a nice linear map where you can step off the main path occasionally for extra treasure in mini-rooms. It suggested you smash chests to get loot. The detour north of the first rectangular room is not worth it due to traps. In the large room just before the boss warp, expect to encounter the usual Garans enemies and a Sinnoh for added challenge in this version. Variation F is presented as having no free rides, meaning every room along the way requires you to defeat enemies, although the detour rewards are minimal. The map is straightforward except for one slightly tricky room, with a terminal that needs to be deactivated to progress to the boss warp. The map uses two different colored barriers. This page continues the item data for the Ruins 1 area. It details the items available in different game modes: normal, hard, very hard, and ultimate. For each mode, it lists categories of items including tools, techniques, arms, and guards that players can find. In normal mode, you can find basic tools like Monomate and techniques like Foi and Barda. Hard mode introduces stronger techniques like Resta and Shifta, and arms like Gladius. Very hard mode offers even stronger techniques like Jafoy and Jabarda, and arms like DB's Saber. Ultimate mode features top-tier techniques such as Jizond and Deband, and powerful arms such as Caliber, and guards like Ultimate Shield. The page also indicates the average armor level for units in this area. The Ruins area features several enemy types with varying weaknesses. Dominions, La Dominions, and So Dominions are weak to Ice, Rabarta, and Foi techniques respectively. Belsabers are dangerous, immune to evasion, and best handled with hit-and-run tactics or a coordinated multiplayer approach, using ice spells or grants. Dark Belturis, the toughest for Rangers and Forces, are weak to Zonde series techniques and grants. Hildebears are effective against them. Chaos sorcerers are multi-part enemies, involving the sorcerer, BL, and crystals. Prioritize the sorcerer, using swords, partisans, or refroid. Dodge refroid cast when the crystals glow red and run from Jabarda, white glow. The sorcerer teleports, so track its movements. This page presents map data for the ruins area, specifically variations A and B. Variation A is described as challenging right after the starting teleporter, featuring enemies from Dark Belgaras to Chaos Sorcerers. It mentions a Warp A detour and a blue terminal that needs deactivation later in the trek. It also mentions a treasure room that might not be worth the time. Variation B is considered more straightforward and linear, avoiding the Warp A detour, leading directly to Warp B, which is necessary to complete Ruins 1 quickly. The map layouts for both variations are shown, with marked locations and pathways. This page continues with more map data for the ruins area, showing variations C and D. Variation C is known for intense monster encounters with rooms often having multiple waves of enemies, so be warned. Fortunately, there's an easy access healing rig to the east in this variation. The advice here is to use Resta or healing items and quickly get to the Ruins 2 teleporter. Variation D is described as having fewer enemies in most areas, which can lull you into a false sense of security, because the room past the north/south wind connector can still be a shock. Again, using the healing rig is a good idea. For Variation D, if you want some extra treasure, take Warp B instead of going to the dark room, which might be too much trouble. Be aware that even after opening the door before the Ruins 2 teleporter, enemies will keep coming, so if you need express, stay and fight. Otherwise, move on quickly. The map layouts for both Variation C and D are shown with start points and paths to Ruins 2 clearly marked. The next page continues the map data and covers variations E and F of the ruins. Variation E is characterized by claws, which have made this ruins variation feel like floating grounds. The good news is that these claws are weak to lightning, so using a multiple target gun or GI or RA level spell can quickly defeat these hovering monsters. This variation is also noted for having a southern dark room that spawns waves of Daimanians. The north dark room is considered more interesting and suggests bringing a gun and trap vision if you are not an android. Shooting down the traps will give you light to find your way to the door and light switch. Variation F mentions that a few claws guard the first room after the starting teleporter. If you raid the treasure room to the east, expect a bunch of Daimanians blocking your way back. Blast through them and head northeast to the room with the waterfalls. In the secret room, you'll find the red terminal needed for the yellow chests in the previous area. Be careful in the corner room across from the L-shaped one, as the dark Belgras there can shoot their arms across the chasm to hit you. This page of the guide focuses on item data for the Ruins 2 area. It lists items available in normal, hard, very hard, and ultimate modes, categorized into tools, techniques, arms, and guards. In normal mode, you'll find basic tools like Monomate and Antidote, along with simple techniques such as Foi and Barda. Weapons include common arms like Buster and Knife, and basic guards like Cross Armor and Solid Frame. As you increase the difficulty to hard mode, the techniques become more advanced, with Resta and Shifta available, and the arms and guards also improve, featuring items like DB's Saber and King's Frame. Very hard mode offers even better techniques like higher level Foi and Resta, along with stronger arms such as Flow and Sword and guards like General Armor. Finally, Ultimate mode provides top-tier techniques and incredibly powerful arms like Blade Dance and guards such as Perfect Frame. The page also features a screenshot showing gameplay in the ruins, with player characters Loris, Zoigma, Naro, and Vanael engaged in combat against Lodamanian enemies, which are dark attribute monsters. This page showcases the map data for Episode 1, presenting two different variations of the Ruins map, Variation A and Variation B. Variation A guides players through a warp at the beginning of the map, advising to head east and then south to reach the Ruins 3 teleporter, thus avoiding unnecessary combat. It highlights a specific battle in a diagonally split room containing Warp A and B, warning about Delsabers appearing in corners and jumping to attack. Variation B discusses Delsabers being common in trios and potentially challenging. It recommends a take-a-shot-and-run strategy, especially in dark rooms, and a large room connecting west and east wings, noting ambushes by at least 3 enemies on the way to a light switch. The text mentions Chaos Bringers, Dominions, and Dark Gunners also being present. It suggests that while Warp A might seem like a detour, it could save time compared to fighting through all the enemies, and is useful if extra weapons are desired. This page continues the map data for the ruins, Now covering Variation C and Variation D. Variation C is described as being warp-heavy, suggesting it might be best to ignore most of them due to tough enemies guarding the routes, especially in dark rooms accessible after warps G and H. It mentions ambushes by Delsabers before you can reach a light switch, and suggests that taking every warp just for fun will really test your skills. Enemies mentioned include Dark Gunners, Dominions, and even 4 Delsabers. Variation D, another warp-focused layout, requires you to use at least some warps, as you can't progress without going through warps G and H. This variation is recommended for treasure hunting because the detours are quick and easy. Warp E is highlighted as being particularly valuable, leading to 4 rooms filled with item boxes to smash. The next page continues the map data with Variation E and Variation F for the ruins area. Variation E is presented as less about warping compared to other variations, but still enjoyable for fighting enemies. It suggests taking Warp A and highlights brutal rooms with Chaos Bringers and Delsabers. This variation is mostly about navigating traps and switch-locked doors. Variation F is described as an amusing variation that lets you ignore the teleporter to Ruins 3, finishing the area much faster. It suggests ignoring yellow chests in the west wing if you don't need recovery items. The flashlight-shaped connecting room is mentioned, and it's noted that you might encounter Dark Gunners and Delsabers before reaching the Ruins 3 teleporter. This page presents the item data for the Ruins 3 area in Episode 1, broken down by normal, hard, very hard, and ultimate game modes. For each mode, you can see lists of available tools, techniques, arms, and guards that you can find. Normal mode features basic recovery tools and starting techniques, along with common weapons and armor. Hard and very hard modes introduce more advanced techniques. Ultimate mode offers the highest level techniques and powerful arms, like DB's saber, and top-tier guards. The screenshot at the bottom shows a battle in the ruins, featuring the enemy Dark Belbara, which is noted as having a dark attribute. The page also includes an indicator for the average level of armor units you might find in this area. This is page 73 of the guide. This page presents map data for a dungeon area. It shows 2 map variations, A and B. Variation A describes 2 routes from the start, east and west. The east route is faster, but the west route has better treasure in a dark room. Both routes lead to an hashtag-shaped room with heavy combat. Variation B is described as complicated, suggesting a southwest loop after Warp A and then northeast to the boss warp. This route is less about express but good for item drops and experience. It warns about 2 dangerous rooms, a dark room in the south with a Chaos Bringer and a poison trap room in the east. This page continues the map data and details Variation C and Variation D. Variation C is about large square rooms that will have you fighting for a long time against packs of Dark Belras and flotillas of Dark Gunners. It notes the lack of Delsabers in this variation. Warp C is the only warp leading to treasure, and in ruins you can get your hands on new weapons and armor. Before the boss warp, there's a trio of Dark Belgaras. Variation D focuses on Dark Gunners, which are frustrating enemies that are only targetable for small amounts of time. This variation is linear and has short detours. It is worth taking despite the zigzagging hallways and floor switches, because it's full of falling traps. This page continues the map data and details Variation E and Variation F. Variation E is packed with treasure chests, which is great for experience points, especially if you are worried about the upcoming boss fight. Take every detour to pick up everything you can carry, as it's full of express. The unusual aspect of this variation is the doors that are only opened by switches located on the other side. This is actually beneficial, as it encourages you to take extra side trips to explore. Variation F, while a longer detour with not as much treasure, is still worth taking for the experience points if you need them. Make sure you have a way to heal yourself readily accessible, because it's a long route, but it's beneficial in the long run before facing Dark Falcas. The enemies here are straightforward, although in the room to the east of the final Chaos Sorcerer room, there are 4 chests with enemies appearing when you smash them. The final boss battle against Dark Faults begins in a garden, giving players a chance to buff before engaging. First, players face Darvants, blade-spinning enemies, which require careful dodging. Damage them only when they turn purple and emit smoke. Safe spots appear temporarily, and movement is crucial. Boss data is provided for Darvants, Dark Falls 1, and Dark Falls 2, including resistances, HP, and XP values across difficulties. Dark Falls' first form is a 4-headed chariot, with the heads as weak points. It attacks with Darvance and unavoidable fire/ice techniques. Melee weapons are recommended due to Darkfall's technique resistance. Forces can use Razond or Refroid on very hard. The number of Darvance to kill varies by difficulty and online/offline status. This page is Part 2I of the guide, introducing the Episode 2 walkthrough. It highlights that this section provides extensive item, enemy, and map data for the game. The page features a collection of key characters from Episode 2 in the artwork. This is page 80 of the guide. The next page provides instructions on how to use the item data, enemy data, and map data sections within the guide. For item data, it explains that items are categorized as tools, arms, and guards. Green boxes indicate techniques and arms. The item data represents averages across section IDs, and item lists are color-coded white for common items and black for rarer ones, ordered from weakest to strongest. For enemy data, it explains that each section includes enemy lists with hit points for normal, hard, very hard, and ultimate modes, both offline and online. Enemy resistance data, gathered from normal mode, is also provided with 6 categories: fire, ice, thunder, light, dark, and resistance to weapon abilities. It is noted that lower resistance means more damage, and fire and ice are recommended against rappies. Finally, for map data, it explains that maps are randomly selected each playthrough and are designed to be easy to read using color-coded doors and chests. Red and white doors require clearing enemies, black doors are always open, and solid color doors require switches. Terminals and laser barriers are also color-coded, and chests are gray for random contents and brown for fixed contents. This page details the item data for the VR Temple Alpha area across different difficulty modes: normal, hard, very hard, and ultimate. For each difficulty, it lists categories of items you can find: tools like Monomate and Antidote, techniques such as Foi and Resta, arms including saber and handgun, and guards such as frame and shield. The techniques in hard, very hard, and ultimate modes show level ranges, indicating stronger versions are available in higher difficulties. For example, Foi starts at level 1 in normal and goes up to level 2130 in ultimate. Each difficulty section also has an average armor level rating, indicated by stars at the bottom right. The strategy data page details traps and environmental elements. Communication terminals allow access to information and lab returns, but only after clearing enemies. Press traps crush players. Bomb traps explode and can be destroyed. Laser barriers require matching color terminals to deactivate. Pillars shoot freeze rays at detected movement. Floor switches require simultaneous activation in multiplayer. Gates and switches open with matching colored or symbolic cylindrical switches. Healing rigs replenish HP and TP. Broken walls reveal hidden paths or treasure. Transporters allow travel between areas, from blue to red. The page also includes relevant images and character art. This page of Episode 2 item data showcases details for various enemies. It presents stat information for Ragrappy, Poison Lily, Monist, Mothmant, Grass Assassin, Dominion, La Dominion, and Hildebear, covering their resistances like EFR, EIC, ETH, ELC, EDK, and ESP, alongside HP and XP values for normal, hard, very hard, and ultimate difficulty settings in both offline and online modes. Regarding enemy descriptions, Ragrappies are described as cute, fluffy, and rewarding to defeat for items and express, especially in harder modes. Modonists are common and not very rewarding in normal, but become more dangerous in hard, very hard, and ultimate difficulties. Poison lilies are known to spit poison or paralysis, and androids are immune to their poison, while hunters should run in spirals to avoid their attacks. Grass assassins are relatively easy to fight, but can paralyze you, and are immune to tech attacks when charging. This game guide covers strategy and data for the VR Temple. The boss warp allows a one-way trip to the Barbaret boss fight, requiring room clear and confirmation. Telepipe tricks suggest pre-boss fight preparation with telepipes to return to Pioneer 2 for healing and supplies, including dropping one near the warp. Enemy data details Dark Belras, giant and powerful temple enemies, recommending rangers and forces attack from medium range, and hunters get close. Dark Belras attacks include arm swipes, grants, and a dangerous long-range claw. Area data warns of the difficulty of VR Temple Beta, particularly for those starting Episode 2, advising a cautious approach and hit-and-run tactics. The guide also includes stat tables with resistances: EFR, EIC, ETH, ELC, EDK especially, HP, and XP data for Dark Belra and So Dominion across difficulty levels and game modes. And days. Gameplay screenshots are also provided. This page details the boss data for Barba Ray and Pig Ray from Episode 2. It explains Barba Ray is an evolved form of Dorol Lay from Episode 1. The guide describes Barba Ray's attack patterns, including glowing white ball projectiles, spikes, and laser beams, emphasizing the need to dodge and move strategically on the raft to avoid damage. There are stat tables showing the resistances, EFR, EIC, ETH, ELC, EDK, for both Barba Ray and Pig Ray, as well as their HP and XP values across normal, hard, very hard, and ultimate difficulties in both offline and online modes. The page also features gameplay screenshots showing the Barba Ray boss fight in action. Class-specific advice is given for hunters, rangers, and forces when fighting Barba Ray. Hunters, especially partisans, are effective when Barba Ray is swimming alongside the raft, dealing heavy damage to the back of its neck. Rangers can hit Barba Ray during laser blast phases and even when swimming, particularly with rifles. But they generally don't do as much damage as hunters when Barba Ray is on the raft. Forces can use Razan to quickly defeat Barba Ray, hitting it in multiple locations, and even while it's near the raft, making them very effective against this boss. This page shows the map data for VR Temple Beta, which is said to be overflowing with treasure, containing a total of 9 brown chests. Warp Point A will take you to a very rewarding area. To deactivate the blue laser barriers blocking your path, there is a hidden walkway located on the southern part of the map, directly in front of 3 gray chests. Be aware that things can get quite dangerous in the room with the purple terminal, because of fireball-spewing pillars and a wave of enemies that includes a Dark Belbira. Luckily, a healing rig can be found on a hidden walkway in the previous room for some recovery. The map itself shows different numbered rooms and warp points A and B. This page details strategy data for the VR Spaceship Alpha area, highlighting new traps and conditions such as slow motion and confusion status effects from yellow traps, drop traps that require quick action from teammates to avoid damage, and dark rooms that need a switch to be activated, requiring careful navigation and teamwork. The page also provides enemy data for 4 enemy types: Pan Arms, Hindum, Megium, and Garans. For each enemy, there are resistance stats against different elements and damage types: EFR, EIC, ETH, ELC, EDK especially, and HP and XP values for offline and online modes across normal, hard, very hard, and ultimate difficulties. Pan Arms are described as more susceptible to physical attacks in Episode 2, and can split into 2 weaker enemies, Hidum and Misagium, which have different attack types and status effects. Defeating Pan Arms together is recommended to avoid prolonged battles and limited express gain. Garans is described as having long-range missile attacks, and the strategy to defeat it involves running circles to make its missiles hit itself. Breaking its armor triggers landmines and heat-seeking missiles, making it a dangerous foe without its armor. This page focuses on enemies found in Episode 2, specifically wolves, Gilchiks, and Delsabers, with stats for Barbarous Wolf, Savage Wolf, Gilchik, and Delsaber. For each enemy type, there's a table detailing their resistances to various elements and damage types like EFR, EIC, ETH, ELC, EDK, and especially HP and XP values are listed for offline and online modes across normal, hard, very hard, and ultimate difficulties. Wolves in Episode 2 are tougher than in Episode 1, and can cast Zonde and Jelen spells. Barbarous wolves are noted as the leaders, and taking them out first will cause savage wolves to buff themselves with Zalore and Jelen spells, lowering their attack and defense. Gilchiks are best dealt with using ranged weapons. Their slow, double-punch attacks can knock players down, and they can be hit while on the ground. Guns allow you to eliminate packs of Gilchiks before they get too close. If a Gilchik stops moving, it's preparing to fire, so be ready to hit it first. Gilchiks are machine-type enemies. Delsabers are described as enemies with high evasion and shields. For single players, it's recommended to attack until you get an opening, or use long-range hit-and-run tactics. In multiplayer, one player should draw aggro while others circle and attack from behind. Forces can freeze them with grants or use ice spells. Delsabers are dark-type enemies. The page also includes in-game screenshots of players fighting savage wolves, Gilchiks, and a Delsaber, showcasing combat scenarios. This page is map data for VR Spaceship Alpha, which is described as not being a walk in the park. The text advises to enter the dark room marked on the map, turn right immediately, and head for the switch. The second wave of enemies in that room includes a Del Saber. From there you should head north and take a short detour to the room with 11 brown chests, which contains bounty. But there are fireball pillars and a press trap to overcome. The text highlights a more dangerous nearby room marked with 4 pillars, 2 of which can freeze you. These are ice pillars that can be taken out from long range by a ranger. The page shows a map of the VR Spaceship Alpha area with room numbers and labels like to Lab and to VR Temple Beta. This document details items available in the VR Spaceship Beta area of Phantasy Star Online, Episode 1 and 2, across 4 difficulty modes: Normal, Hard, Very Hard, and Ultimate. Normal mode offers basic healing items, TP restoratives, and support items like telepipes. Weapons include basic swords, guns, rods, and wands. Techniques are Level 2, Foi, Barda, and Zond, and Level 1, Gifoi, Gibarda, and Jazond, along with supportive techniques. Armor options include frames, armors, and shields. Hard mode introduces stronger weapons and techniques with increased levels, Foi, Barda, Zond at 79, and adds Shifta, Debond, Jelen, and Zelur. It features advanced frames, armors, and barrier types. Very Hard mode further increases technique levels, up to 913, and includes even more advanced weaponry. It features a unique set of armor and shields, including Dragon Frame and Glorious Shield. Ultimate mode has the same arms and guards as Very Hard, with even higher technique levels, up to 1622, and introduces Reverser. A note indicates the average armor level in this area is 5 stars. This document provides strategic information on poison rooms and enemy encounters. Poison rooms are purple areas requiring a switch to clear. Enemy data is detailed for Chaos Sorcerers, Dubchicks, and Dubwitches. Each enemy section includes elemental resistances, HP, and XP values across difficulty levels, normal to ultimate, for offline and online modes. Chaos Sorcerers are comprised of the Sorcerer and 2 BL/AR crystals. Effective strategies involve sword/fire attacks and partisan weapons. They cast Barda, White Glow, and Zonde, Red Glow, both dodgeable. Prioritize the Sorcerer and eliminate Delbiters. Dubchicks are tougher than Gilchicks. They are best defeated by repeated attacks that shatter them. The key is to destroy the Dubwitch, a ceiling-mounted, brown orb with yellow spikes. Destroying the Dubwitch eliminates all Dubchicks. Hunters and forces are recommended for this encounter. The Episode 2 boss, the Gold Dragon, is a challenging foe with lightning and ice breath attacks. Dodge its ice breath, which can freeze you, by staying mobile and flanking it. After breathing, it may teleport and unleash a shockwave. Attack its vulnerable head and feet. During elemental attacks, it spins in the center, raining down attacks. Attack from behind when it lands. At half health, it splits into a doppelganger. Focus on one at a time. The page includes the dragon's stats, resistances, and HP/XP values across difficulty levels. Different player classes have varying strategies. Hunters excel in melee, rangers attack from a distance, and forces utilize ice and lightning techniques, along with support spells. Screenshots illustrate these strategies. This page presents the map data for a straightforward area, described as being mostly in a circle with short detours and relatively safe. The main challenge comes from the sheer number of enemies, including dark and poison types, and multiple waves of opposition in almost every room, even the dark and poisoned rooms. The trickiest parts are drop traps, located in front of the gray chests in the north-central room. The advice given is to hug the north and south walls respectively, to avoid these traps and reach the treasure. The map itself is a diagrammatic representation of the area, leading to VR Spaceship Alpha. This page of the guide details the item data for the Jungle North area in Episode 2, broken down by game difficulty: Normal, Hard, Very Hard, and Ultimate modes. For each difficulty, it lists the available tools, techniques, arms, and guards that players can find in this area. In Normal mode, you'll find basic recovery tools and low-level techniques, alongside common weapons and basic armor. Hard mode introduces stronger techniques and a new set of weapons and armor. Very Hard and Ultimate modes offer even more potent techniques and powerful high-end weapons and guards. The average armor level of enemies also increases with each difficulty setting, as indicated by the star rating. This page covers strategy data for Galdaval Island, and starts by explaining that after defeating the Gold Dragon, you need to speak with Lab Chief Ellie to get your next mission and access to the transporter. This will lead you to the central control area. To open the facility's main gate, you must disarm security locks in the jungle area, mountain area, and seaside area. The page then details computer terminals, explaining they have two functions. Access shows if security is disarmed, and search log provides storyline info from Flowen. Reading Flowen's messages is optional for gameplay, but fleshes out the story. Next, it describes floor traps, which are concealed and invisible to Android and trap vision. These traps cause damage when triggered, and sticking close to walls is recommended to avoid them in single-player mode. Finally, the page details the enemy G, describing them as bee-like mothmans, fast and annoying. They shoot stingers and blend into the background. The advice is to keep an eye on the radar to track them and prioritize eliminating them. Geese have resistances, and the page lists their stats on normal, hard, very hard, and ultimate difficulties for both offline and online modes, as well as the XP they provide. The Geese attribute is native. This page details more enemies you'll encounter, starting with gibbons. These enemies come in packs and are quite annoying, especially the Zol gibbon. They are evasive, making them hard to hit, but rangers and forces with long-range attacks should have better luck. Gibbons attack with claws, and their elemental attack is ice for Zol gibbons and fireballs for Ul gibbons. It's mentioned to use ice attacks against Zol gibbons. Next up are Marilias and Mariltas. These plant-like enemies start rooted and then shuffle towards you. Marilias are less threatening and slow, running away after a couple of hits and releasing a blue toxin if you get too close. Marilicitas are faster and counterattack with toxin if you get close, creating a radius of poison. Long-range attacks are advised for taking them out. Lastly, the page covers Sinnoh Benrils, the latest in the Sinnoh robot series, equipped with photon camouflage and are undetectable by radar until close. They aren't fully invisible to the naked eye, and their data box appears in the lower left corner when close. Sinnoh barrels usually lumber towards you until you're close enough to punch, retaliating with a leaping slash if attacked from too far away. After 4 punches, they jump back and may teleport, sometimes surrounding themselves in flames. Their camouflage deactivates when hit but reactivates after teleporting. This page showcases the jungle area map data, noting that these maps are smaller and less complex compared to VR areas, which can be both good and bad. It mentions that going after the 2 brown and 3 gray chests at the dead end of a certain path might lead to an encounter with a Sinnoh Beryl on the way back. The page also points out a healing rig located in a hidden area off the south bend of the map. The map itself is shown with numbered locations and an exit point labeled to Jungle Area East. The page includes 2 images depicting jungle environments from the game. This page provides enemy data for the Marikaral, a mini-boss found in the jungle area of Galdaval Island after defeating the first 3 Marilias. The Marikaral is located in the central control area surroundings. It's a plant-type enemy that spits projectiles causing confusion and uses blades for close-range attacks. When it beeps and points its head up, it's about to release a deadly powder attack. The page notes that low to mid-level characters can be instantly defeated by this attack, but even weaker characters have time to run away. Rangers with rifles are recommended to attack from a distance, while other classes should use hit-and-run tactics. It also mentions that the Marikaral is likely to ram you if you're not paying attention. The map data section describes a very simple map, highlighting that smashing rocks near the starting point will lead to 6 brown chests and potentially an encounter with a Sinnoh Benril. The page indicates that you can tell if you can smash rocks by an impact graphic that appears when you strike them. This page details the item drops for the mountain area in Episode 2 across different difficulty modes: normal, hard, very hard, and ultimate. For each mode, it lists techniques, arms, and guards that can be found. In normal mode, you'll find basic tools, techniques like Foi, Barda, and Zond, common arms such as Buster and Partisan, and basic guards like Gigaframe and Hard Shield. Hard mode introduces higher-level techniques like Gifoy and Jabarda, and new weapons such as the Claymore. The guard items also improve, with items like King's Frame and Dragon Frame becoming available. Very hard mode increases the level of techniques further, offering even stronger versions like level 14, Foi, and Barda. Weapon drops include powerful swords such as DB's Saber and Gungnir, and the guards are top tier, listing items like Absorb Armor and Perfect Frame. Finally, Ultimate mode provides the highest level techniques like level 29 Foi and Barda, endgame weapons like Caliber and Blade Dance, and the absolute best guards including Valiant Frame and Divinity Barrier. Each mode also indicates the average armor unit level you can expect in this area, progressively increasing with difficulty. The page also contains a small screenshot showing an in-game mountain area environment. This page details strategies and enemy data for the mountain area, focusing on two enemy types: poison spitters and gibbles. For poison spitters, the guide describes them as organic lumps that spew poison, easily found in the middle of chests. The strategy is to use long-range weapons or time short-range attacks carefully, suggesting sticking around for potential item drops. The gibbles section introduces them as mini-bosses, warning against being fooled by their silly name. They are tough and known to pummel players into the ground. This strategy advises maintaining distance, moving to avoid their jump attacks, and hitting them when stunned after landing. It also notes their ability to block short-range attacks and counter with roundhouses. Patience is key, and it's mentioned not to kill the UI gibbons alongside them, as they are replaced by Zol gibbons and freeze attacks, which can be problematic. An enemy data table for gibbles shows their resistances: EFR 50, EIC 10, ETH 85, ELC 10, EDK 100, 75 Spanish pesetas, and their HP and XP values across normal, hard, very hard, and ultimate difficulty modes. The map data section displays a map of the mountain area, highlighting Gibble's location and noting that the area is crawling with gibbons. It advises targeting Zol gibbons first to avoid being frozen and ensuring the party is healed before tackling gibbles. The guide mentions that once you proceed past the warp area to fight gibbles, there's no turning back unless a telepipe is used. The next page displays item data for the seaside area in Phantasy Star Online Episode 2 across different difficulty modes. For normal mode, it lists basic tools like Monomate and Diamate for healing, techniques like Foi and Barda, common weapon types including Buster and Knife, and basic armor and barriers such as Soul Frame and Soul Barrier. In hard mode, the techniques expand to include support spells like Shifta and Daybond, weapons become more advanced like Gladius and Claymore, and guards offer better protection with Shock Frame and King's Frame. Very hard mode features techniques with specified levels and continues with high-end weapons such as DB's Saber and Caliber, along with top-tier armor and barriers like Protect Frame and Glorious Shield. Ultimate mode provides the most powerful items, with techniques at their highest levels, continuing to offer top-tier weapons and the best guards such as Perfect Frame and Ultimate Shield. A small screenshot at the bottom shows gameplay in the seaside area. This page provides enemy and map data for the seaside area. It focuses on Gi Giwe, who's described as a giant Queen Gi mini-boss similar to Miracaral, attacking with projectiles that can cause confusion. It advises using melee weapons but being careful, as Gi Giwe is aggressive. The page notes that Gi Giwe will shield itself, making attacks miss, and then counter with a spiked ball explosion. The page includes a table with Gi Giwe's resistances and HP and XP values across different difficulty modes: normal, hard, very hard, and ultimate, for both offline and online modes. The map data section describes the seaside area as having traps in the water and floor traps. It mentions a detour to the south where you can find 8 brown chests, a computer terminal, and a healing rig. The rocks to the west are also noted as having items that disappear after defeating most enemies in the area. The map itself visually shows the path, starting point, Gi Gi's location, chests, and the path to the central control area. The next page is all about the item data for the central control area in Episode 2. It breaks down items into normal mode, hard mode, very hard mode, and ultimate mode. For each mode, it lists available tools, techniques, arms, and guards. In normal mode, you can find standard tools like Monomate and Difluid, basic techniques such as Foi and Barda, and common arms like Buster and Knife. Hard mode introduces more advanced techniques like Resta and Dabond, and stronger arms and guards. Very hard mode ramps things up further with even more powerful techniques and gear. Finally, ultimate mode features top-tier techniques such as Jazoned and Resta, and extremely powerful arms and guards including DB's Saber and Imperial Barrier. At the bottom, it shows the average level of armor units you can expect to find in this area, ranging from 2 stars in normal to a full 6 stars in ultimate. This page for Episode 2 details strategies for fighting the Gal Griffin boss and map information. It explains that while fighting the Gal Griffin, you should hit it when paused and run away as it attacks, moving to its side when it charges. It's best to attack after the Griffon attacks. The page then gives specific advice for different player classes. Hunters are told they can consistently hit the Griffon, but must avoid its blue energy bolts, and should use swords or partisans from a distance. Rangers with rifles are well suited to attack the Griffon's head from afar, but still need to be careful of its shockwave attack. Forces are surprisingly effective, with mid-level spells like Barda and Foi, which have a greater range than the Griffon's shockwave, and Foi is recommended for its speed and TP efficiency over Barda. Finally, the map data section describes the map as mostly a straight line leading to the boss, but notes that the room before the boss warp has traps and requires you to defeat 3 waves of Cynos, 2 pairs of Bagrils, and a pair of Spigels before the door to the boss will open. This document details item drops in the seabed upper area across 4 difficulty modes: normal, hard, very hard, and ultimate. Normal mode yields basic consumable items, techniques like offensive spells and support buffs, and a variety of weapons including swords, guns, and staffs. Protective gear includes different armor and shield types. Hard mode builds upon this, introducing advanced techniques, more powerful weapons like sabers and lasers, and stronger armor and shield options. Very hard mode further increases the power level, offering even stronger weapons and enhanced guards like Flowen Sword and more advanced barriers. Ultimate mode mirrors very hard mode in terms of item drops, maintaining the same high-end weapons, techniques, and armor, with the highest average armor units level across both very hard and ultimate modes. This page details enemy data for Episode 2, focusing on Rico boxes, Recons, Dolmolms, Dolmdarls, and Sinozoas. You'll see enemy stats laid out for normal, hard, very hard, and ultimate difficulties, covering resistances, HP, and XP gains. Rico boxes and Recons are machine enemies. Rico boxes manufacture Recons as patrol units, so if you destroy a Recon, a new one will appear from the Rico box. Dolmolms and Dolmdarls are tougher beast-type enemies, described as successors to the Buma and Evil Shark enemies, and they are known for their dangerous tentacle attacks. Finally, Sinozoas are the new Sino enemies. They use photon camouflage, making them invisible until they attack, and they have powerful leap slashes and can use a freeze attack. The page also gives some tactical advice for dealing with each of these enemy types. This page continues the enemy data section, detailing the Del Depth and Del Biter enemies. It shows their resistances and stats across normal, hard, very hard, and ultimate modes. The Del Depth is described as initially appearing as spiked discs and then transforming into a humanoid form, recommending strong attacks after they materialize. The Del Biter is highlighted as a very dangerous enemy that charges quickly and is invisible initially. The page advises listening for their hooves and using the radar to avoid their charge, attacking from the side, and being cautious of their confusion-inducing energy field. The page also contains a map data section indicating that the area is a poison room and mentions hitting a red switch. It points out that detours on the map are safe, but to reach the brown chests to the south, you'll need to defeat 2 Deldepths and 2 Sinozoas. It also warns that a Delbiter will be waiting on the way out. This page details the item data for the seabed lower area, outlining what you can expect to find in normal, hard, very hard, and ultimate modes. In normal mode, you will find basic tools like monomates, diamates, fluids, and atomizers, along with status recovery and escape items. Techniques available include the standard elemental spells like Foi, Barta, and Zond, and their single and multi-target versions, plus support and debuff spells. The arms section lists a variety of weapon types, such as swords, slicers, clubs, poles, staffs, and guns. Guards in normal mode are basic frames and barriers offering protection. Moving to hard mode, the techniques list expands with higher level versions of spells and introduces Shifta, Deband, and other support techniques. Very hard mode further increases the level of techniques available. Finally, ultimate mode features the highest level techniques. Across all modes, the arms and guard sections list increasingly powerful equipment, with names like DB's Saber and Dragonframe appearing in higher modes, indicating stronger gear. The page also notes the average armor units level with star ratings, reflecting the increasing difficulty as you progress through the game modes. This page showcases enemy data for Morphos and Cynozeles, alongside a map overview. Morphos are described as slow-moving enemies with very high defense, often referred to as floating walls. They use lasers with unlimited range and are weak to thunder techniques. When near defeat, they drop a force field and spin to fire lasers. Their resistances are detailed as EFR 60, EIC 60, ETH 15, ELC 27, EDK 28, and 15 Spanish pesetas. Sino Zelis are presented as the evolved form of Sino robots, combining the best traits of their predecessors. They are known for powerful punches, photon camouflage, faster teleportation, and freeze lasers. Their resistances are EFR-80, EIC-45, ETH-45, ELC-0, EDK-28, and 20 Spanish pesetas. Below the enemy data, the page features a map section. The text highlights a healing rig located in the northeastern part of this map, which is useful after encountering rooms filled with Sinos and Morphos. It also warns players to watch out for Delbiters appearing when backtracking, and suggests using long-range attacks from ramps to defeat them safely. The map itself seems to represent a dungeon area, with numbered zones and connecting pathways. This page details the strategy for the first form of the Episode 2 final boss, Olga Flo. It's specified that the battle takes place on an elevator platform. The page lists Olga Flo's resistances as EFR-30, EIC-70, ETH-50, ELC-80, EDK-100, and 100 Spanish pesetas. It also shows Olga Flo's HP for different difficulty levels, both offline and online. There are descriptions of Olga Flo's attacks, illustrated with screenshots. These include 1. A blade/attack when at eye level. 2. Green projectiles fired when Olga Flo is above the platform. 3. A horizontal blade sweep at platform edge level. 4. A laser attack indicated by a glowing crossbow hand. Quote. 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 5. A stab attack when Olga Flo moves in one direction. The page gives class-specific strategies. Hunters are advised to attack from Olga Flo's right arm during blade slashes. Rangers are effective with rifles, attacking from anywhere on the platform, especially when Olga Flo fires green projectiles. Forces can follow ranger strategies, using FWA techniques and handguns to conserve TP for the next battle, with support techniques like Resta and Shifta recommended in a party. This page details the second form of Olga Flo, noting it's motionless at first and becomes active when approached. You are warned about rubble falling from the ceiling. When Olga Flo attacks with a blade, it creates a shockwave with unlimited range. The advice is to stay close to Olga Flo to avoid a laser attack, and to watch out for gales, snake-like creatures that can cause status effects like confusion and slow. The page provides stat tables for Olga Flo 2 and gales, listing resistances and HP values for different difficulties and online/offline modes. Olga Flo 2's resistances are EFR-90, EIC-90, ETH-90, ELC-45, EDK-100, and 100 Spanish pesetas. Gale's resistances are EFR-39, EIC-77, ETH-77, ELC-77, and EDK-100, 100 Spanish pesetas. Screenshots show gameplay moments, including combat with Olga Flo and Gales appearing. The page then gives class-specific advice for hunters, rangers, and forces. Hunters are effective against Olga Flo if they attack from underneath and use Resta. Rangers with rifles can maintain distance and avoid shockwaves and gales. Forces, due to their weaker defense, should focus on avoiding Olga Flo's attacks and use support techniques like Shifta, Resta, and Reverser, and focus on using grants for damage. This page introduces the Hunters Guild quests, listing 25 quests available in the game, starting from battle training and going up to From the Depths. It explains the quest data bar, which provides details about each quest, like description, client rewards, and suggested character level. The page also describes the monster data section at the bottom of the page, explaining it lists enemies appearing in each quest along with their HP and experience points in normal and hard modes. The battle training quest is detailed further with a map of Forest 1, instructions to find Ash and the data disk, and exploit Kurik. Monster data for the battle training quest lists enemy types like Booma, Go-Booma, Ragrappy, Savage Wolf, and Mothmant, along with their HP and XP values for normal and hard difficulties. This page focuses on the Battle Training Quest, a Tier 1 mission with Zid as the client, offering 500 Meseta as a reward, and is recommended for levels 13. The quest involves finding a hunter named Ash in Forest 1, and retrieving a data disk. The page details how to meet your partner Kurik near the Hunters Guild to start the quest, and also gives a tip on exploiting Kurik's high level to gain easy express by making sure you hit enemies at least once to get a percentage of the experience even if Kurik defeats them quickly. The page also includes a map of Forest 1 showing the locations of Ash and the data disk, and provides monster data for the quest listing Booma, Go Booma, Ragrappy, Savage Wolf, Barb Wolf, and Monist with their HP and XP values. The next page details the Tier 1 quest Claiming a Stake from the Hunters Guild. Rakton's son is the client, offering a reward of 700 Meseta, and the quest is recommended for levels 24. The quest begins by speaking to Rakton, who is located north of the starting point in Forest 1, behind a crashed rocket. He needs you to recover 3 capsules that he used to stake his claim. To find the capsules, you need to head north from Rakton's location and loop around in the northeast to find Capsule 1 guarded by Boomas. Capsule 2 is west of Rakton, accessible by looping around from the southwest due to a locked door. Capsule 3 is near the teleporter to Pioneer 2. The page also advises players to look for a brown chest in the southwestern corner area while searching for Capsule 2, which may contain armor or a frame. The Forest 1 map shows the locations of Raktor and the capsules. Monster data for this quest includes Booma, Go Booma, Ragrappy, Savage Wolf, and Monist, listing their HP and XP values. This page details the Tier 1 quest called Magnitude of Metal. The quest objective is to retrieve stolen items for the client Garon, a trader, who is offering 500 Meseta as a reward. This quest is initially selectable with no prerequisites, and is recommended for levels 1 to 3 on normal difficulty. The Forest 1 map outlines a loop path for the quest. You start at the Mag start point, and will encounter enemies like Boomas, Rappies, and Savage Wolves, which are good for solo practice as you'll be fighting alone for the first part of the quest. You need to find Eleanor at location 3 on the map. She is an android looking for missing mags, and will join your party to help with the search. Eleanor is level 12 and uses a rifle. To gain Express, you need to actively participate in combat instead of just letting Eleanor do all the work. As you follow the loop, Eleanor will give you tips about mags. The main goal is to find the lost mag, which is located back near the starting teleporter at location 4 on the map, on your way back. The page also provides monster data for this quest, listing Booma, Ragrappy, and Savage Wolf with their HP and XP values, confirming they are low-level enemies suitable for starting characters. The Tier 2 Fake and Yellow Hunters Guild quest, available after completing Tier 1 quests, requires levels 3 to 5. The reward is 800 Meseta. The quest has 2 main parts. Battle the Rappy Menace, in Forest 1, where players must defeat numerous Rappies. Forces should use fire or ice techniques, Rangers should use ranged attacks, and Hunters should engage directly. The map shows points A, B, and C with Dr. Gulls at C. The second part, Follow the Mystery Rappy, involves chasing an invincible Rappy after teleporting from Pioneer 2, speaking to it at points B and C. An optional objective, Find the Lost Chow, involves defeating 3 Ragrappies near Dr. Gulls in Forest 1 to obtain the Chaos Mini Garden key item, downloadable for various Sonic games at the Pioneer 2 terminal. Ragrappies have 30 HP and give 4 XP. This page details the Tier 2 quest Grand Squall from the Hunters Guild. This quest, for levels 3 to 6, tasks you with finding survivors from the lost pleasure boat Grand Squall and is given by the travel agency, rewarding 1,000 Meseta upon completion, assuming you've cleared all Tier 1 quests. To start, you'll need Bernie's help in Forest 1. A door at point A is locked, and only Bernie can open it. Find him at point B, answer yes to his question to get him to join you. Ignore other hunters, as they have no helpful information. The page shows maps for Forest 1 and Forest 2. Forest 2 is described as challenging. Bernie is a strong ally, particularly with his flamethrower. Though it's slow, it's recommended to prioritize defeating enemies before heading to the central dome via the boss warp, which becomes available after Bernie finds the survivor. Expect to face Boomas, Savage Wolves, Barbarian Wolves, Monists, and Hildebears. Forces and Rangers should support Bernie from behind with ranged attacks and spells. Once Bernie locates the survivor, warp back to base to claim your rewards. Finally, there's a monster data section showing stats for enemies you'll encounter. Booma, Go Booma, Giga Booma, Ragrappy, Savage Wolf, Barbarian Wolf, Monist, and Hildebear, including their HP and XP values. Alicia's Tier 2 quest, Native Research, requires level 48 plus players on normal difficulty. The reward is 2,500 Meseta, and all Tier 1 quests must be completed beforehand. The objective is to defeat 5 specific enemy types within 20 minutes. Boomas, Go-Boomas, Wolves, Monists, Rappies, and Hildebears. A suggested route starts in Forest 1, progresses through Forest 2, and guides players to enemy locations marked on accompanying maps. Forest 1 has locations 1 to 4, and Forest 2 has locations A-E, where screenshots show the various enemy types. A monster data table provides HP and XP values for each enemy. A note about Rappies indicates that leaving through the north door after killing the first wave might be necessary for a second wave to spawn. This page details the Tier 2 quest, Forest of Sorrow, called Stalk the Baby Hildebear with Alicia. The client is Alicia. The reward is 1,500 Meseta, and it requires completion of all Tier 1 quests, including native research. It's recommended for levels 58 on normal difficulty. The quest involves finding a baby Hildebear at point A in Forest 2, and following it to point B with Alicia, who is level 10 and has support spells but needs protection. The page includes maps for Forest 1 and Forest 2, marking points A and B for the baby Hildebear's locations. It warns players to prepare for the Hildebear herd when heading to point B, as the area is guarded by groups of Hildebears, emphasizing the need to protect Alicia. After completing the quest, there's a mention of a Hildebaby dialogue choice. Finally, there's a monster data table for the Forest of Sorrow, listing enemy types like Booma, Go-Booma, Gigabooma, Ragrappy, Savage Wolf, Barb Wolf, Monist, and Hildebear with their HP and XP values. This page details the Tier 3 quest, The Lost Bride. The client is Sisselforce, and the reward is 2,500 Meseta. The prerequisites are to clear all Tier 1 quests and beat the dragon. The recommended level is 710 on normal difficulty. The page shows a Cave 1 MAP for the quest. There's a section titled Escort Sissel, which explains that Sissel, despite being level 13, is weak due to a diet and needs protection. It mentions she can use healing items and be healed by dragging her to rigs or using Resta. The cave is simple, and the Warp A detour is suggested for weapon boxes. The USing Cecil section explains that Sissel uses ice techniques, specifically Barda, which is not very useful. However, she has anti at a high level and can cure poison from poison lilies. It advises letting poison lilies shoot her again to remove the poison condition if she gets paralyzed and you don't have anti. Finally, there is The Lost Bride monster data table listing the monsters in this quest: Evil Shark, Pal Shark, Gill Shark, Poison Lily, G-Assassin, and Nano Dragon along with their HP and XP values. The guide details 2 quests. Lost Bride continues in Cave 2, directing players to the waterfall room via Warp A, warning of strong enemies and traps, including decoys. A telepipe is advised for escape. Reaching the waterfall room with Sissel completes the quest, though the rest of Cave 2 is initially blocked. Finding a hidden terminal unlocks further exploration. The new Value of Money quest from Giselle's wife offers 300 Meseta for resolving a marital argument in Pioneer 2. Prerequisites include completing all Tier 1 quests and beating the dragon. The player acts as a mediator, correctly answering the husband's and wife's questions. The player needs to respond to the husband with, "No, I don't understand." Successfully navigating the conversation and reporting back to the wife grants the reward and a second emblem, collected from the Hunter's Guild principal. The weapon emblem subplot begins in the Secret Delivery quest. This page details the Tier 3 quest Secret Delivery from Simons, rewarding 4,500 Meseta and recommended for level 710 players on normal mode. The prerequisites are clearing all Tier 1 quests and defeating the dragon. The page presents the Cave 1 map, highlighting locations for Bernie and an android, along with the starting point and the path to Cave 2. The Caves 2 action section explains the mission is to deliver a package to an android in Cave 2 within 45 minutes. There's an optional detour to Terminal A for extra items, and you can also meet up with Bernie at a marked spot on the map. A note warns about other androids, detailing how to unlock the door to the teleporter by hitting a yellow switch in a dark room. It mentions encountering an android and entering YNO117 or EM12 to it. Inputting the wrong code will trigger a fight with the enraged android. Finally, there's a Secret Delivery monster data section, listing enemies like Evil Shark, Pal Shark, Gill Shark, Poison Lily, G Assassin, N Dragon, and P Slime, along with their HP and XP values. The page also includes screenshots showcasing gameplay and map views. This page continues the secret delivery quest and presents the Cave 2 map, guiding you to Eleanor, who is the true YNO117 android. The page highlights that the route to her is tricky due to purple and blue laser barriers, requiring you to find and deactivate 6 switches using trap vision. It suggests a start button trick to bypass hallway traps if you are not an android. After deactivating terminals and dealing with decoys in the central room, you should go straight to Eleanor via Warp A to deliver the package. The page also introduces the weapons emblems, explaining that secret delivery is the start of a subplot in Hunter's Guild quests. To begin, you need to talk to a man who will give you a weapon emblem insignia after responding with "Po!" or "Po!" to his questions. These emblems are connected to a secret organization of weapon fanatics. You can't obtain the badge in secret delivery if you haven't cleared claiming a stake quest or other initial quests, and you are allowed to redo quests if needed. 4 screenshots are displayed, showing gameplay moments and dialogues related to claiming a stake, Grand Squall, the value of money, and the Lost Bride quests, featuring characters and in-game text snippets. The next page introduces the Graves Butler quest, a Tier 3 challenge from Mytha Grave, offering a 3,500 Meseta reward. To undertake this quest, you need to have cleared all Tier 1 quests and defeated the dragon, and the recommended level is 710 on normal difficulty. This page provides maps for Cave 1 and Cave 2 to guide you through the quest. It mentions that Mankatha Graves can join you as a teammate. She is skilled with Fwa techniques and high-level anti-spells, making her a useful ally, especially against poison lilies. There's a section called Review Blant's Final Messages, instructing you to pay attention to message packs in Caves 1 and 2, which are from Blant, not Red Ring Rico. For players who are story-focused, you should read all messages. If you are not interested in the story, just read the last message in the waterfall room of Cave 2. The guide directs you to head east in Cave 1, then down to Warp B, passing some adventurers, and after reading the final message, continue further until Mankatha opens a pipe to finish the quest. Finally, the page shows a monster data table for the Graves Butler quest, listing enemy types like Evil Shark, Pal Shark, Gill Shark, Poison Lily, Grass Assassin, Nano Dragon, and Poison Slime, along with their HP and XP values. This page details the Tier 3 quest Addicting Food from Trekka, offering 1,500 Meseta as a reward. The prerequisites are to clear all Tier 1 quests and defeat the dragon, with a recommended level of 9 to 14 on normal. The quest overview explains that you'll be traversing 3 cave areas, fighting many enemies, including waves of evil sharks. It suggests using G-level spells, swords, or partisans for force classes, while rangers might need to do more running back and forth. The Fight Your Way Through the Caves section highlights Cave 1 as potentially the most challenging part, featuring rooms with multiple waves of enemies. It advises taking Warp B to reach the teleporter to Cave 2, which will be covered on the next page along with Cave 3. A Cave 1 map is provided for guidance, and there's also a monster data table for the Addicting Food quest. This table lists enemy stats, including HP and XP, for monsters such as Evil Shark, Pal Shark, Gill Shark, Poison Lily, Grass Assassin, Nano Dragon, Poison Slime, and Pan Arms. This page continues the Addicting Food quest guide and presents the maps for Cave 2 and Cave 3. Below the maps, the guide details how to find the cake shop within Cave 2 from secret delivery. It mentions that Cave 2 has fewer enemies but more traps. To reach Cave 3, you need to use the teleporter in Cave 2, which is quite a journey. After beating enemies in the waterfall room, you should head north from the starting point and go around in a circle to the east, then south in the corridor with the 3 smashers. It advises to bring Pan Arms and a Draw or Dim series weapon or healing techniques. The guide mentions collecting free cake at the shop and returning to Trekka for a history lesson and a reward. The page also includes 3 screenshots showing gameplay moments, one with the player facing enemies, another showcasing the cake shop with dialogue "Let's get cake," and another dialogue after obtaining cake. I learned about this in history class. It's a cake, isn't it? The Waterfall Tears quest, a Tier 3 Hunter Guild mission, tasks players with finding Crow's missing sister, Anna. The reward is 1,800 Meseta. Prerequisites include clearing several prior quests and a recommended level of 914. Normal. The quest involves navigating Cave 1 and Cave 2, avoiding traps and ambushes. Players must defeat Anna and a ranger in an initial ambush near Pioneer 2. Cave 1 includes nano dragons. In Cave 2's waterfall room, players face another battle against Anna, after which she returns to her sister. The guide also provides monster data, including enemy HP and XP values for enemies encountered during the quest. Hoot. This page continues the Black Paper Quest, a Tier 3 mission from Crow the Hunter, offering a reward of 2,000 meseta and requiring completion of the Waterfall Tears quest with a recommended level of 914 on normal difficulty. The quest is about finding the mastermind behind missing hunters, and is a continuation of Crow's storyline from the Waterfall Tears quest. The first objective is to check Crow's mail at the quest board, because Crow is not meeting in person. Players need to read her mail to understand the next steps in helping her, which involves tracking her through all 3 cave areas. The second objective is to defeat the first henchman in Cave 1. Cave 1 has a layout similar to Cave 2 from the Waterfall Tears quest. Players will fight the same henchmen encountered previously in Waterfall Tears, but this time, Black Paper and It Isn't Anna will disappear, leaving the player to fight the henchmen alone. The guide advises using saber or knife and ranger techniques against the henchman, who is slow swinging and weak at long range. The page also provides a Black Paper monster data table, listing enemy types and their HP and XP values. The monsters listed are Evil Shark, Pal Shark, Gill Shark, Poison Lily, G-Assassin, Nano Dragon, P-Slime, and Pan Arms. A map of Cave 1 is shown, indicating the start point and path to Cave 2. This page continues the Black Paper Quest, now guiding you through Cave 2 and Cave 3. For tracking him down, it mentions that after seeing Black Paper and Crow in the forked room north of the teleporter in Cave 3, you need to hit 3 floor switches, one is hidden, to open the doors. The east door will lead to Black Paper and Crow, while the west wing is optional if you need a healing rig. The page provides maps for both Cave 2 and Cave 3, highlighting start points, switches marked with numbers, guard locations, and paths to the next cave. Cave 2 map shows a path leading to Cave 3. Cave 3 map has KROE marked at a location. The section Slay Henchman Number 2 introduces Black Paper's second henchman, waiting in the east wing a few rooms in. He uses a saber, and is described as using Barda Ice technique at mid-range and Resta to heal. The guide advises aggressive tactics for hunters and rangers/forces to use bullets or Zonde bolts to interrupt his techniques. Defeating him leads to Crow in the next room. Screenshots show gameplay scenes of combat in the cave environments, with the player character battling enemies, likely including the second henchman. The next page details the Tier 3 quest, Letter from Lionel, where you're tasked with finding all of Lionel's scattered body parts. The quest, given by Lionel himself, rewards 4,500 meseta, and requires you to have completed all Tier 1 quests, defeated Derola boss, and spoken to the principal. The recommended level is 914 on normal difficulty. The quest, Put Lionel Back Together Again, guides you to retrieve Lionel's head from Forest 2, his right arm also in Forest 2 after defeating a Hildebear, his right leg in Forest 1, and finally his left leg in Cave 2. Maps for Forest 1 and Forest 2 are provided, marking locations for Lionel's right leg, head, right arm, and Point A where the Hildebear resides. There's also a section titled Confront the Other Hunter, instructing you to return to Pioneer 2 and speak with another hunter outside the Hunters Guild after collecting all of Lionel's parts to complete the quest. Finally, a monster data table lists enemy information for Booma, Goobooma, Gigabooma, Ragrappy, Savage Wolf, Barb, Wolf, Monist, and Hildebear, showing their HP and XP values. This page continues the Letter from Lionel quest guide, providing maps for Cave 1 and Cave 2. Specifically on the Cave 2 map, it points out the location of Lionel's left leg. There's also a screenshot showing the Letter from Lionel quest displayed on the quest board. Finally, a monster data table lists enemies you'll encounter during this quest, including Evil Shark, Pal Shark, Gill Shark, Poison Lily, G-Assassin, End Dragon, and Pan Arms, along with their HP and XP values. This page details the Soul of a Blacksmith, Tier 3 quest for Oswald, with a reward of 2,500 meseta and a recommended level of 914 on normal difficulty. He'll need to have cleared previous quests like an Ideal Food, Little Bride, Sister's Delivery, and Grand's Butler's Request to access this one. The quest is about collecting materials for Oswald's new weapon, Maiwantite, Dragon's Fang, and a mineral. The page shows maps for Forest 1, Forest 2, and Cave 1 to help you find these items. Maiwantite can be found in Forest 1 at marked points, and you need to defeat the dragon boss at the end of Forest 2 for the Dragon's Fang. Minerals come in red, green, and blue, located in Caves 1, 2, and 3 respectively, with Cave 1 map indicating the location of the red mineral. The mineral color you choose impacts the weapon Oswald makes. There's also a monster data table at the bottom listing enemies you might encounter like Booma, Gabooma, Ragrappy, Savage Wolf, Monist, and Hildebear, along with their HP and XP values. This page introduces the Tier 4 quest, Knowing One's Heart, from Ellie Person, offering a reward of 3,500 Meseta. To undertake this quest, you'll need to have cleared all Tier 1 quests and defeated Darol Lay, and the recommended level is 1215 on normal difficulty. The quest is about finding Callus, who is believed to be alive on Pioneer 1. The page is split into 2 parts, guiding you to search for Callus with Ellie's help, and find Callus past the Dark Room. A map of Mine 1 is provided to assist in your search. At the bottom of the page, there's monster data showcasing enemy stats for Gilchick, Canadyne, Canine, Sinnoh Beat, and Sinnoh Gold, including their HP and XP values. This page details the Tier 4 quest, Dr. Osto's Research, given by 3 scientists, offering a reward of 5,500 Meseta. To take on this quest, you need to have cleared all Tier 1 quests and defeated Darol Lay, and the suggested level is 13 to 15 on normal difficulty. The quest is broken down into 2 parts. First, kill the henchman and find Sue, where you'll face the same partisan from the Black Paper quest. But you should be much stronger now. You'll need to lure Dubchicks towards the kill switch at the end of the room to proceed and find your NPC Sue. The second part is, fight your way to the target. Sue can unlock doors to the east wing of the mines, and is a great asset in battle, especially with her hunter weapon and Zonde spells, which are effective against enemies like Canadines. If Sue is at level 18 or higher, she can handle herself. With her help, fighting to the main computer should be manageable. A Mine 2 map is provided to guide you. Below the map, you can see monster data for enemy types you'll encounter, including Gilchick, Derbchick, Dubwitch, Canadyne, Sinnoh Beat, and Sinnoh Gold, along with their HP and XP values. This page continues detailing the Tier 4 quest, The Unsealed Door, and focuses on the Bring Mome to Mine 2 quest objective. It highlights that this quest is considered tough, because you have to escort a very frail NPC named Mome. The guide suggests stocking up on star atomizers and using telepipes. There's also a Beware of Dubchicks section, advising players to use guns, stay near doorways, and let enemies come to them. For Dubchicks specifically, the tip is to target the kill switches from a distance and recommends handguns, mech guns, or rifles to hit switches on the ceiling. A map of Mine 2 is shown for navigation. Below the map, there's monster data for the Unsealed Door quest, listing enemy types like Gilchick, Dubchick, Dubwitch, Canadyne, Canine, Sinnoh Beat, and Sinnoh Gold. This page continues the guide for the Unsealed Door quest, now focusing on the objective to visit Dr. Osto's computer, which is located in Mine 1. The guide advises players that while the location is the same as in Dr. Osto's Research, the route might be slightly different. It suggests taking detours and heading west after meeting Sue to find the green terminal. After that, go south from the C-shaped Dubchick room, then north from the safe room where you encountered Sue, hit the purple terminal, and loop back to the computer, finally using the transporter to warp to Mine 1. A map of Mine 1 is provided for navigation. There's a section about carefully crossing Mine 1, which mentions that Mine 1 is easier now with Canines as the only new enemy, and that their rings shouldn't be too much of a threat to Mame if you keep moving. It also points out a star atomizer in the room just south of where you first encounter Canines. Lastly, there's a section about Darol Lay, stating that Mome will take a nap while you fight Darol Lay in the underground passage. This page details the Tier 5 quest, The Retired Hunter, given by Donov. The quest objective is to defeat 99 monsters within 30 minutes in Ruins 3 to help Donov fulfill his dream. To start this quest, you need to have cleared all Tier 1 quests and gained access to the Ruins area. The reward starts at 8,000 Meseta on normal difficulty and increases as you raise the difficulty level. The recommended level is between 18 and 25 on normal. The page shows the Ruins 3 map layout to help players navigate the area for the quest. There's also a monster data table that lists the enemies you'll encounter in Ruins 3, including Dimanian, La Daimanian, So Daimanian, Del Saber, Claw, Bullclaw, Dark Beldora, Dark Gunner, Chaos Sorcerer, and Chaos Bringer, along with their HP and XP values. It notes that Donaph is a strong cookie and will help you fight, letting you focus on your own safety during the quest. The next page details the Tier 5 quest, From the Depths, given by Irene, the secretary. In this quest, you're asked to search Ruins 2 for a missing research team after an earthquake on Ragol. The reward for this quest is 3,500 Meseta, and it's recommended for levels 18-25 on normal difficulty, requiring you to have cleared all Tier 1 quests and have access to the ruins. The page shows a map of Ruins 2 to guide you. The quest description mentions that the survivors you find in Ruins 2 are acting strangely, disappearing in puffs of smoke after you talk to them. It seems a crazy force lady in the east and west wings of Ruins 2 is involved. These survivors might become possessed and attack, but fighting back and defeating Daimanians can free them, eventually allowing you to reach the transporter to Ruins 3. The bottom of the page lists monster data for Ruins 2, featuring Daimanian, La Daimanian, So Daimanian, Del Saber, Claw, Bullclaw, Dark Beldora, Dark Gunner, Chaos Sorcerer, and Chaos Bringer, along with their HP and experience point values. There's also a dialogue box showing a green-skinned survivor who seems to be asking for help, saying they heard a voice and wants to be taken aback. This guide covers Doc's Secret Plan, a treasure hunting quest with Eleanor in Ruins 1. Rare items await in a secret room behind a waterfall in Test Area 3. Remember to drop Eleanor at the Hunters Guild before proceeding south of Test Area 3. The Ruins 1 map highlights Test Areas 1, 2, and 3. The guide also details Dr. Montague's Promise, a rewarding quest with a 9 grand prize. Dr. Montague crafts weapons from monster materials, but only after completing specific Hunters Guild quests and finding him again. A screenshot shows Dr. Montague offering weapon crafting. Finally, the guide lists monster data, HP and XP, for Ruins 1, including Dominion, Del Saber, and other enemy types. The next page details the Tier 5 quest, Seek My Master, for client Shino, an android, offering 6,000 Meseta as a reward. Prerequisites include clearing all Tier 1 quests and gaining access to the ruins, with a recommended level of 2,230. The quest involves 2 main objectives. Pursue Great Sword Zoke with Shino, where players must navigate 2 ruins maps with Shino, who is described as vulnerable and needing protections. The second objective, Protect Shino from Ruins 1 monsters, highlights the danger posed by Dark Belras, which can instantly kill Shino. Players are warned about a detour area offering a room with 7 yellow chests containing weapons and armor if they flip switches in the northeast door. The hardest room is located north of the warp to Ruins 2, requiring protection of Shino from waves of Del Sabers, Chaos Sorcerers, and Dark Belras. The page also shows a Ruins 1 map and monster data for Seek My Master, listing enemy types with their HP and XP values, including Dominion, La Dominion, So Dominion, Del Saber, Claw, Bullclaw, Dark Belgra, Dark Gunner, Chaos Sorcerer, and Chaos Bringer. This page continues the guide for the Seek My Master quest and covers Ruins 2. It advises players to go straight to the sword rooms, skipping the detour linked to mini-warps, which leads to treasure, but also to Dark Gunners. It specifically points players towards the Sword Kamui room to avoid unnecessary complications. The guide describes the Sword Kamui room as filled with Del Sabers and warns of premature death. It suggests switching to a handgun and luring Del Sabers to the entrance hall to defeat them safely if players have no long-range capabilities. For the final battle, Great Sword Zoke's room, the guide highlights it as a major challenge. Enemies will only appear in the middle of the room, endangering Shino. Players are warned about the Chaos Bringer's charges and advised to run in a wide circle for Shino to dodge. Defeating the Chaos Bringer before it recovers and then finishing off other enemies from afar is the recommended strategy. The quest ends after speaking to Zoke. Lastly, the page mentions the Missing Legendary Katana, a side quest related to Zoke's katanas. Players can learn about the legend of the 4 swords from a techer near the check room and find books about katanas. The 4th katana is called Ajito, and there are imitations. If players find a katana after defeating all guild quests, bringing it to the techer will reveal if it's the true Ajito or one of the 6 imitations. The page also shows the Ruins 2 map layout. The Tier 5 quest, Soul of Steel, from Dr. Montague, requires completing Doc's secret plan, and has a recommended level of 2,530. Your objective is to find his android, rewarding 5,000 meseta. The quest begins by infiltrating the WRKS area in Mine 2, a long Hunter's Guild quest with Eleanor and Dr. Montague. You must use stealth to bypass guards, utilizing a distraction by Dr. Montague to advance. Follow ULT instructions, triggering a cutscene by finding chests. Avoid being spotted by guards, or you'll restart the section. Finally, defeat 3 tough works soldiers within the works room. After the battle, head to the Ruins 3 warp. The area will self-destruct after 20 minutes. The guide also includes a map and monster data for potential enemies, such as Gilchick, Dubchick, and Sinnobeat. After Dr. Osto's research, the Sue and Bernie subplots diverge based on whether you told Sue your name. If you did, quests like Unsealed Door, Waterfall Tears, Black Paper, and Knowing One's Heart involve finding Bernie and receiving warnings, culminating in Seek My Master. If you didn't tell Sue your name, the Unsealed Door quest initiates the alternative path. Waterfall Tears involves fighting Karik, leading to a rematch in Black Paper, Cave 1, if you defeated him previously. From the Depths concludes the storyline, with a challenging battle against Karik in Ruins 2 West, rewarding the Soul Eater. Regardless of the path, informing Bernie about Sue allows for optional interrogations of Sue during certain quests, though these conversations are non-essential. This page is part of the appendices, specifically the Complete Items and Weapons Chart section, starting with weapons. It highlights the saber as an example weapon, showing its stats like attack, ranging from 4,050, a max attack boost of plus 7.5, and an accuracy of 30. It mentions the weapon's value is variable, and its resale value is always 1/8 of the purchase price. The saber is a 3-star rarity weapon usable by all classes, Hunters, Rangers, and Force, and requires a minimum accuracy of 110 to equip. You can enhance it up to Varista plus 9 using grinders. The page points out that 9-star and above weapons have more details, and that all 9-star weapons have a built-in element, referring to page 120 for element details. The Also in this section list acts as a table of contents for the appendices, listing categories like Hunter weapons, Force weapons, Ranger weapons, Special items, Rare weapons and guards, Elements, Barrier shields, Armor frames, Units, mags, and techniques, along with their page numbers. The page also features an image of a female character holding the saber weapon. The next page of the guide details more weapons, this time covering sabers and swords. Sabers are described as versatile weapons for any class, with a good balance of range, power, and speed, though they are short-ranged and require backup plans for spells or items. The saber weapon list includes weapons like the standard saber, Brand, Buster, Palish, Gladius, DB's saber, Kaladgolg, and Durandal, each with increasing stats, rarities, and value. Swords, on the other hand, are massive blades that swing slower but cover a wider area and can hit multiple enemies. Swords have high attack power but lower accuracy, making them risky for close combat. The sword weapon list features the standard sword, Gigush, Breaker, Claymore, Caliber, Flowen Sword, Last Survivor, and Dragonslayer, again showing progression in stats and rarity. Each weapon in both categories lists its attack range, accuracy, maximum attack boost, value, class usability, and minimum attack requirement to wield it, as well as any special properties. This page details 2 more weapon types, daggers and partisans. Daggers are described as fast weapons, despite their lower attack values, hitting twice per swing and being great for combos, though they are short-ranged. The dagger list includes weapons like the standard dagger, knife, blade, edge, ripper, blade dance, bloody art, and the cross scar. Each dagger entry shows its rarity, attack range, accuracy, max attack bonus, value, special properties, and class usability, alongside the minimum attack required to wield it. Partisans, on the other hand, are described as weapons with strict attack requirements, mostly for hunters, and are like swords but with a longer reach and wider swings. They boast higher accuracy. The partisan weapon list includes weapons such as the partisan, halbert, glaive, birdies, gungnir, brionac, vijaya, and gaybolg. Like the daggers, each partisan lists its stats, rarity, attack, accuracy, max attack, value, special properties, class usability, and minimum attack requirement. This page details two more weapon categories: slicers and canes. Slicers are described as long-range weapons great for cutting through enemies in a line, hitting multiple foes. They aren't as accurate or powerful as handguns, but are easier for hunters to use. Slicers aren't great at disarming traps. The slicer list includes weapons like the standard slicer, spinner, cutter, saucer, disca, slicer of assassin, disca of liberator, and disca of braveman. Each slicer entry shows its rarity, attack range, accuracy, max attack bonus, value, and special properties. Canes are mentioned as a good weapon for forces, like Draw-Dim series handguns, suitable for standard weapons. Canes are accurate enough for those final hits on weak enemies, and are good for conserving TP when resources are low. The cane weapon list includes weapons such as the cane, stick, mace, club, club of Laconium, mace of Adaman, and club of Zumuran. Like the slicers, each cane lists its stats: rarity, attack, accuracy, max attack, value, and special properties. This page continues the weapon appendices, now detailing rods and wands, and their variations. Rods are described as good all-around weapons, with decent attack power and accuracy, and can hit one enemy per swing. The rod category includes weapons like the standard rod, pole, blow, striker, battle verge, brave hammer, and alive agu. Wands are described as weak but quick weapons that can boost your mind stat. It's suggested to keep a wand on hand to learn new techniques early, as you can equip it within 10 mind stat of the requirement. Wand-type weapons listed are the standard wands, staff, baton, scepter, fire scepter, ice staff dragon, and storm wand Indra. Each weapon entry for both rods and wands lists its rarity, attack range, accuracy, maximum attack bonus, value, and special properties. The minimum requirements for hunters, rangers, and forces are also shown, with all of these weapons being force usable. The next page details handguns and rifles. Handguns are described as good weapons for close to mid-range combat, useful for picking off enemies and disarming traps. They're noted as being better for rangers due to accuracy, and deal more damage than rifles. The handguns listed are handgun, autogun, lockgun, railgun, raygun, varista, custom ray V.00, and bravace. Each entry shows rarity, attack range, accuracy, max attack bonus, value, and any special properties. They also list if hunters, rangers, and forces can use them, and the minimum accuracy requirement. All handguns are usable by hunters, rangers, and forces. Rifles are presented as decent weapons with a small range difference compared to handguns, but good for hitting distant enemies and bosses. The rifles listed are rifle, sniper, blaster, beam, laser, Visic 235W, Walls Mk2, and Justy 235 Street. Similar to handguns, each rifle entry details rarity, attack, accuracy, max attack bonus, value, special properties, and minimum accuracy requirements. Rifles are primarily for rangers, with some being usable by forces but none by hunters. This page details mech guns and shots. Mech guns are described as usable by any class, similar to handguns but not as popular. They fire multiple bullets at once, have lower damage and accuracy, and a slower animation. Despite this, they can be fun to use, especially if you find a charge repeater, and are effective against bosses but less reliable in normal combat. The mech guns listed include standard mech gun, assault, repeater, Gatling, Vulcan, M&A 60 Uzis, H&S 25 Justice, and L and K-14 Combat. Each lists rarity, attack range, accuracy, max attack bonus, value, special properties, and if hunters, rangers, and forces can use them, along with accuracy requirements. All mech guns listed can be used by hunters, rangers, and forces. Shots are described as firing a spread of 5 homing bullets. They deal less damage, but are good for clearing rooms and guaranteeing hits on enemies, though they might be less effective offline. They are effective against groups of enemies like claws, and powerful against tougher enemies. The shots listed include shot, spread, cannon, launcher, arms, crush bullet, meteor smash, and final impact. Similar to mech guns, each shot lists rarity, attack range, accuracy, max attack bonus, value, special properties, and if hunters, rangers, and forces can use them, along with accuracy or attack requirements. Shots are generally not for hunters and forces, but are mostly usable by rangers. This page details special items in the game, including quest weapons like the Star Frying Pan and the more powerful Kirik's 10-star weapon. Enemy weapons are crafted from enemy drops using the Doc's Secret Plan quest. Rare items and enemies are also highlighted, with powerful weapons like the Dragonslayer sword and items dropped by rare enemies like Hildebeer. Merge barriers and amps boost technique power. Matching barriers and amps like Red Barrier with Foi amp increase specific technique damage by 30%. Equipment combinations like Delsaber's Buster and Shield provide significant effectiveness boosts. Colored rings, planned for an online event, grant stat boosts when party members equip matching rings. Finally, completing challenge modes with an S-rank awards customizable S-rank weapons, offering a wide variety of weapon types. This page covers weapon elements in the game, explaining that weapons with A before their name have elements. You need to take these weapons to a techer to appraise the element's rarity, which ranges from 1 to 4 stars. Higher rarity elements are found in higher level areas. The page details 5 element categories: fire, lightning, ice, bind, and panic. Each element category has 4 levels of rarity, each level adding to the weapon's value and potentially adding elemental damage or effects. For fire elements, the levels are heat, fire, flame, and burning, each providing fire-type damage. Lightning elements progress from shock, thunder, storm, to tempest, dealing lightning-type damage. Ice elements go from ice, frost, freeze, to blizzard, and can freeze enemies. Bind elements include bind, hold, seize, and arrest, which paralyze enemies and are effective against most enemies except bosses. Panic elements are panic, riot, havoc, and chaos, confusing enemies, though these are less accurate and ineffective against bosses. This document outlines 5 weapon series with varying effects. Draw series weapons heal the user based on damage dealt, with increasing HP drain across draw, drain, fill, and gush variations. Dim series weapons offer instant kills, particularly effective against pan arms, with dim, shadow, dark, and hell variations all providing this ability. Charge series weapons utilize Meseta or TP for double-powered attacks, including charge, spirit, and berserk variations. Heart series weapons focus on TP replenishment, crucial for force characters, featuring heart, mind, soul, and geist variations with increasing TP refill percentages. Finally, Masters/Devils series weapons alter express gain, or enemy HP, with variations like Masters/Devils, Lords/Demons, and Kings. Devils and Demons weapons significantly reduce enemy HP, useful in higher difficulty modes. This page delves into 4th evolution mags in Phantasy Star Online. It explains that for a mag to reach its 4th evolution, it needs to be at level 100 and meet a stat requirement where the sum of 2 of its stats must equal the sum of the other 2. The specific mag you get depends on your character's section ID, job class, and sex. The page lists several 4th evolution mags: Diva, Divari, Nidora, Pima, Pushan, Ravi, Rukumin, Savitri, and Shakanto. For each mag, it shows whether it evolves from hunters, rangers, or forces. It also shows their photon blast type and icons for bar fills and boss fights, which are related to mag abilities. The page then details the evolution conditions for mags based on section IDs and gender. It mentions section IDs like Viridia, Blueful, Redria, and others, and provides evolution conditions based on the highest stat of the mag, POW, Dex, or Mind, which influences whether it evolves into male or female specific mags like Diva or Savitri based on your character's sex. The next page continues the topic of mags, focusing on preference charts. It details photon blasts, showing images and describing abilities for mags like Farla the Serpent, who uses photon blasts, Estenella the Dolphin, Layla the Goddess, Myhila and Eula, Pilla the Sorcerer, and Galela the Elk. It explains that mags have food preferences, and lists charts showing how different food items like monomate, dimate, trimate, and fluids and atomizers affect their stats such as defense, power, dexterity, mind, IQ, and synchro. These charts are numbered from chart number 0 to number 6 and provide a guide on which food items to feed your mag to influence specific stats. This page of the Maglopedia details mag abilities, explaining that mags can have up to 4 special abilities that trigger when the photon energy bar is full, during boss fights, or when your HP is low. These abilities can make you momentarily invincible. Cast Shifta and Deband, Resta, or Reverser. It highlights that you can see which mags use which abilities in the profiles shown. The page then lists various mag types including Andhaka, Apsaras, Ashvinau, Bana, Bhairava, Durga, Garuda, Ila, Kabanda, Kaitabha, Kalki, Kama, Kumara, Madhu, Mag, and Marika. For each mag, it shows their first evolution details, indicating which classes, hunters, rangers, or forces they evolve from. It also shows their photon blast ability, which can be Estella, Pilla, Minella, or Gora. Finally, each mag has bar fills and boss fight preferences, indicated by a number from 1 to 6, which likely relate to the food preference charts from the previous page. This page continues the appendices section, detailing more mags in Phantasy Star Online. It presents information for several mags, such as Maruta, Mitra, Naga, Namuchi, Nandin, Naraka, Ravana, Ribhava, Rudra, Sita, Soma, Sumba, Surya, Tapas, Ushasu, Varaha, Varuna, Vayu, Vrita, and Yaksa. Each mag entry shows its first evolution details, indicating if it evolves from hunters, rangers, or forces. It also shows their photon blast ability, which can be Estella, Pilla, Mayela, Godella, Farforcella, or Layla. Each mag also has bar fills and boss fight preferences, again indicated by symbols relating to food preferences. Phantasy Star Online techniques enhance with level, gaining new effects. Zond, a lightning technique, starts with poison and progresses to frozen at level 7. Various techniques are described. Zonde is beginner-friendly and reliable. Gifoy is strong in specific areas. Gibarda is highly useful for freezing enemies. Razonde is costly but accurate lightning. Fue is powerful and becomes faster with higher levels. Barte is less favored than Jabarda. Uzonde is a multi-target lightning spell with setup challenges. Rafua can wipe out groups. Rabarda freezes surrounding enemies. Each technique's type, lightning, fire, or ice, is specified, along with formulas for calculating power and cost, which vary based on level. This page showcases more techniques in Phantasy Star Online. Continuing from the previous page, Grants is highlighted as the most powerful light technique, effective against single targets and auto-targeting like Zond. Shifta, a support technique, provides a significant attack boost and is especially valuable at higher levels and in online multiplayer. Jelen, another support technique, reduces enemy attack power, but is considered less useful in typical gameplay scenarios. Ryuker is a support technique noted for its convenience, saving players money and inventory space by enabling teleportation. Moving on to recovery techniques, Anti is presented as a healing technique that cures conditions and can heal teammates at higher levels. Megid is described as a dark technique with an instant kill effect, though its effectiveness is limited against bosses and it's difficult to land hits consistently. Deband, a lightning support technique, boosts defense, but is considered less impactful compared to Shifta's attack boost. Zalur, another support technique, lowers enemy defense, helping to defeat them faster, but it is ineffective against bosses. Rista is a crucial recovery technique, healing a significant amount of HP for the user and teammates within range, making it a staple for any player. Finally, Reverser is mentioned as a recovery technique popular in online play, saving money on moon atomizers, and highly recommended for team-based gameplay.